portfolio of real estate through land and house packages across Australia. And if you can do that and build 3 or 4 houses, 5 houses through your career, by the time you come out of it, it'll be unreal. You'll be sitting back going, yeah. So my guidance through what they're doing off the field, because I believe having a distraction off the field is very important for you to keep level-headed. We can get stuck in the bubble and think rugby league or soccer all the time, and it gets too much, especially for the kids coming straight out of school into a profession. So to have that focus outside of rugby league, soccer, cricket, whatever it is, I think it's very important. I can, for me, a big one was when my kids come along. They don't know. They don't care if you won, lost. You played poorly. You played great. You are still a dad. You've got to get up. Yeah. It's like having a big night on the beers, and you've got to get up that next morning and look after them. I don't care. So it's definitely important as athletes go through their journey to have a distraction and do that. It's just separate both. It's go home, clear the head, focus on something else. When you're at your profession, nail that and stay away. Yeah. Put things in place for a smooth transition after footy, soccer, cricket, whatever it is.
Whatever you play.
I'm enjoying that, mate. We're fresh into it. So, we'll get the ball. Once the momentum sort of gets going and we reach out and connect with some athletes, it's going to be unreal.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of it, especially in the Premier League. I was working at a club called Leicester City from about 2011 to 2014, and we were around a lot of ex-players who'd been in the top team, and then it was like they didn't know what to do next, and it was soul-destroying to see like these guys who were Premier League superstars at the time, who were probably earning £20,000-30,000 a week, but then they come to the end of their careers, and a lot of them to do with things like maybe alcohol. Some unfortunately got involved in drugs, some just lost their way a bit, and I won't name names, but there was 1 or 2 players who were superstars in that Leicester team in the early 2000s who didn't have any money post-career because they just didn't have any advice, they didn't have any guidance. And I think like what you are doing, when I first met you and Paul, and you explained how you're going to do it through the power of like properties and lands, and just educate that you've got to start thinking for the future, you've got to forward think a little bit. And at the time, maybe you're 27, you're single, you're not even thinking of kids, you haven't got a girl or a permanent girlfriend. It's like the last thing you want to think about, but you should be thinking of the future. And it was soul-destroying to see in those early 2010 eras and decade that the amount of players who don't have the support, and even till this present day, I get a lot of stories back to me of people who've earned tens of millions of pounds in a game and are bankrupt. They don't have any money.
You can't get your head around that, can you? You just don't understand it.
It's hard, and it's like, obviously there is a disparity between NRL and the Premier League in England, but like it shows you like it's so important whether you're earning $500 a week or you're earning £50,000 a week. It's so important to forward think, because you're probably going to have kids at some point in the future, and it's important to set yourself up to enjoy that second part of your life where you could be pretty relaxed. And money's not everything, but one of the things I've learned over the years, if you don't have to worry about money, it's definitely a good thing not to have to worry about it. And I've found that through myself, being a single dad full-time with 2 kids, it's like not having to worry about money means I can focus on helping kids in the sport that I'm in, and to try and help those kids stand on their own 2 feet. And that's my big mission, and I think it makes a hell of a difference. So what you and Paul are doing, I think, is absolutely phenomenal. And you did tell me a little about Fogs as well, and like that, I just don't think people realise how important those sort of businesses are. So hats off to you for everything you're doing, Matt.
Thank you very much, Ray. Yeah, just like you said, mate, that guidance, and as we know, it's the people you surround yourself with, right? So if you can, you get a little group here, a little group there, we're all, doing it for the better and guiding, these athletes in the right direction, and just understand it might not be land and house package for them, but it might be something else. At least you've got those right people around you that can connect you with, what your vision is for after sport. I think here in Australia, I think we can do a lot better for our athletes and guiding them in the right way. So this is just the start, but very exciting for us. And it's just giving back through my experiences, through Paul's experience. He's a father himself, obviously. He knows land and house packages off the back of his hands, the right places to put people of whatever their situations are, their budgets are. It's leaning on us for that guidance, and I think we can do that very well.
Now, we're going to drop it all in the show notes to this episode. That's been amazing. But if anyone wants to reach out and help out with Fogs or get involved with Merit Sports, how would they do that?
just contact me, mate.
Yeah.
Get through to Ray, send him some information, email addresses, phone numbers, and we can go from there. So
Brilliant.
definitely here to help and guide people, and I want to share what I do full time there at Fogs. It's such a great organisation, and keeping that connection to the past is very important in any sport, as we know. Everyone has their old boys groups and things like that, but Fogs is an organisation there to lean on. So very important, and that exciting opportunity with Merit Sports. Please reach out to Ray if you are interested. We'll get you point in the right direction. We'll catch up and have a conversation and see where you're at with life.
Yeah, amazing. So for everyone who is watching and listening in, we will drop it all in the show notes, how you can reach out to me and to Matt and to Paul. We'll also put some information in about Fogs in the website and also about Merit Sports. So, Matt, I'll be honest with you, it's probably one of the best podcasts I've done. I've done about 50 in the last 2 years, and it's so good to see the different crossovers. But big thank you for joining us today.
No, thank you, Ray. I enjoyed my time here, mate, and hopefully we can do one again.
Yeah, let's get one in the future.
I appreciate having me on. Thank you.
Yeah, cheers, Matt. Thanks, guys.
Hi everyone, this is Raymond Wood at the Raymond Wood Podcast. We are here. I say this every episode, but my episodes I think just keep getting better and better and better. We've got someone on who I've known for a couple of years now, a guy called Lockie. I met Lockie in one of my local gyms in Brisbane, and he's been a huge inspiration over the years, and what we're about to share with you on this podcast will absolutely blow your mind. I wanted to make sure this podcast happens, and you're probably wondering why I am not in my studio and why Lockie's in my studio. I've just flown back from Hawaii, and we got stranded in Sydney because of bad weather, so I've decided we want to make this episode happen. So, Lockie, a big welcome from me in Sydney at my makeshift studio, and you're in my studio in Brisbane. How are you?
Ray, it's so good to be on here, mate, and thanks for the kind words. I'd have to say, as I was just saying to you a moment ago, very inspirational to have seen the leaps and bounds that you've just progressed in and the impact that you're having in your space. And it's great to be on here. I can confirm these couches are as comfy as they look as well. So I'm glad I get to be here and I'm not in the airport.
Yeah, I'm just gutted not to be there with you today, but the universe has a mysterious way for doing things, and for some reason, I'm a big believer in that. And the funny thing was, I bumped into a young boy and his dad today in the hotel where I am. And story short, we've basically just opened up a huge opportunity in Chicago in the USA for about 200 players. So the universe has chosen me to be here today and not in Brisbane, and I think we know why.
That's amazing, mate. It is good when you can take I guess what would be a setback for most, to turn that into an opportunity and just roll with it.
Now, Lockie, obviously, for those listeners that don't know, I'm based in Brisbane. You were based in Brisbane pretty much most of your life. And what we're going to do is we're going to get a little bit of a backstory on how you're involved and how you have been involved in sports before we get into the whole reason why we brought you on today. And I think it'll bring some context into why we brought you on. But can you just give us a little bit of a 2 to 3 minute backlog of your life to date, where you grew up, what sport you played professionally, and what you've been doing since then?
Yeah, so I grew up in Toowoomba, so I was very lucky being out my parents had a bit of acreage, so I got exposed to just living outdoor from the moment that the sun came up until it went down. I was skateboarding, got into surfing, I played soccer for a while, believe it or not, rugby league, anything that I could get my hands onto or get involved in, I did, and I was very grateful for that, because at the time what I didn't realize was I was learning a lot of great small skills that would, progress and compound over time. And I was a very good track and field athlete, so I won state titles and placed second at a state title in the 800 metres and the 400 metres. And when I went to school, I got a scholarship at Toowoomba Grammar School, which, I'm very grateful I got to go there. I'd started getting a bit of peer pressure to go to the rugby sides of things because I wanted to fit in. It was a rugby school. I was a stick-thin little skateboard runner guy, but I didn't want to get picked on anymore. So I did whatever I needed to do to become a great footballer. So from, once again, when I wasn't at school, I was learning to catch and pass properly. I was learning to tackle. I was learning to use my feet. I just obsessed over it, and I was very fortunate. I went from the 13 C's to the B's to the A's, and I played 2 years of first 15 at Toowoomba Grammar School, which was awesome. And then I got an opportunity to go play over in France, which was the dream. I guess as a young boy, a young Australian bloke, the dream for me was to always be a professional athlete. I just idolized them. I would see them on the paper, in the news, and I just thought, what a life that would be. I believe that being a professional athlete would just transform everything. So having that opportunity, Ray, really, changed my life. I probably didn't maximize the opportunity when I had it. I had things that I know you talk a lot about and you educate people on. I didn't have my head screwed on my shoulders in regards to what I did outside of sport at that age. When you're living abroad, I partied a little bit too much and ended up coming back home, and that was the end of it. So I was done by 23, which looking back is probably one of my biggest regrets. But I used that setback to be a platform to continue building into where I am today.
Yeah, it's an amazing story and a journey. Obviously, for anyone that doesn't know, I met you in an amazing gym called Function Well in Brisbane. That's run by the amazing Darren and his family. And I remember the conversations we used to have in the gym, not just with you, but also with your partner Amy and the guys. And it was just like the amount of people in this one particular gym who were so inspirational and were basically all there for one reason. It's about trying to educate the youngsters growing up in Australia and around the world that these things are possible. Whichever route you go down, anything's possible. And I think you and Amy are an absolute testament to share that journey and make youngsters realise that you can do anything if you set your mind to it.
It's very true, and depending on what people's upbringings are or who you have, I guess, connections with or who you get to surround yourself with as a young kid, it really does either put a ceiling on or blow the roof off what you think's possible for yourself. And for me personally, once rugby was done, I didn't have access to, I probably did, but I wasn't tapped into the network around me of people who were successful in business, had great marriages, great lifestyles or great health. So I just had a limitation on what I thought was possible for me. And so as a result of that, I was thinking very small. I was acting in a way that I wouldn't say I'm proud of. But then I met my wife, and for those who don't know, my wife's a part of Shepherd, so this hit song Geronimo, and I was with her before that. But when that song took off, you got Justin Bieber's manager calling and all these huge people, and I remember thinking to myself, she's gonna break up with me. I'm not a good person. I don't have any. I had poor self-esteem, and I didn't have much going on in my life. But to her testament, she stood by me, and obviously we're married now. But watching her chase her dreams, so not every day is a good day in the entertainment industry, just like in the sporting space, you have ups and downs, but watching how passionate she is and how committed she is to that gave me that newfound energy and motivation to get back after what I wanted to pursue in life.
Yeah, it's funny that you just touched on it. We all call it the imposter syndrome, but one of the big things that really upsets me in the modern day, and especially in Australia, is it's not the kids who have imposter syndrome because they don't even know what that is. It's the parents who have an imposter syndrome. They walk around listening to fear-based messages in the media, in the news, on the television, how you should look, how you should present yourself. And people, especially parents, just live in this fear-based world. And that's what I'm trying to break down, is that, guys, trust me, I've worked in this game for over 25 years, and this is possible. If you follow this set pathway and you apply yourself, anything is possible in this life.
I couldn't agree more. And that for me is one of the things that I break down, especially with the line of work that I'm in now. I work with a lot of business owners and CEOs as well, who maybe have sacrificed marriages or their health in order to build their businesses, which I can understand because I did that as well. But looking at that, I remember, working in mental health and looking at why people wanted to escape. So just quickly touching, it's obviously, Men's Health Month this month with Movember. But looking at, for me, I was like, why do people want to escape from living? And I broke it down simply to the point of, if you want to escape something, it's just you don't like what's in front of you. And that can come through the relationship that you have, once again, the financial position you're in, the career that you're in. Maybe you don't have the energy or vitality. So I then thought, okay, well, prevention is always better than cure. And so if I can learn from people, even like yourself, Ray, and various other mentors within my life, there's always going to be things that I admire, and there's going to be things that maybe don't suit me or my lifestyle, which is okay, because that's where individuality comes in. But from that, it's up to me to decide, okay, for me to live my best life, what does that look like based off the experiences that I have, the people that I have within my life, and how can I piece that together to continue building on top of that? And that's where the more, even from this conversation, I promise you I'll walk away going, I'm playing small. Like I've become comfortable. I maybe did let the fear hold me back, and I've just accepted that I shouldn't take that risk. But then from here, I'll go, okay, actually, Ray said something that challenged a limiting belief that I had, that now I'm going to go pick up the phone, or I'm going to take that extra risk to continue building my life forward. My wife and I packed up our whole life in Brisbane, where we had great careers in Australia. We had a house, we had everything. It was great. But we've packed up and moved across to Nashville, America, where we didn't know anyone. We spent a lot of money moving over there, and we're starting from scratch again. We don't have a reputation. We don't have a network. And it's daunting, but it's also knowing that when I'm 95, Ray, I want to look back on my life, one, with some great stories to tell and adventures, but I also want to be sitting there going, I just gave it a red hot crack, and I did whatever I possibly could to, be the best version of myself and create the best life for myself.
Yeah, you're so true. And it's funny, I just mentioned I'd just been to Hawaii for a week, and it was a work/holiday with my two daughters. And I took them to Pearl Harbor, and it was all about educating them, and more so my 10-year-old, because she didn't really know much about Pearl Harbor, and exactly what you just touched on. For me personally, I think it's about when you get to that point, if we're lucky enough to live into our 80s and 90s, to be able to share a story with our grandchildren or other people's children. And I look back, some of my most influential people in my life, one of them was my grandfather, and the stories that he used to share with us. And although it wasn't a good period of time, he was in World War II, but some of the stories he told us and the friendships he made in the war, and some of his army buddies, and I look back and think it's all about stories, about living the dream, and about just pushing your boundaries. And I think that's something that I think we all need to do. And I know for my two daughters, just having spent a week with them again on a holiday and going to places like Pearl Harbor and telling good stories, but also learning from past mistakes. Like, you've spoken about some of the issues you had in your early 20s, and I was no different. I've spoken openly to you that, in my 20s and 30s, it was a bit of a blur, because you just live this life and you want to go out and have a beer with your friends. Alcohol runs away with itself, and then all of a sudden you look back and you go, where's the last 20 years ago? And I'll tell you where it's gone. It's been sat in the pub every weekend, pouring it down my throat, instead of actually making the most of life.
And it blows my mind. And once again, I always catch myself saying things like, I don't understand how people can just sit in the pub and do that. But that was also me. And it's obviously a massive shift in my identity around what I find valuable and what I believe adds great experiences to my life and what I want to be doing. So when you just said that there, I'm like, man, I wasted a number of years. I believe I wasted my best years athletically because of booze, because I wanted to fit in. And then I would, developed that habit, but it also became a vice when I felt uncomfortable socially. I'm socially a bit of an anxious person, but I don't let that hold me back anymore. But back in the day, I'd be like, right, let's grab a beer or a whiskey to just have that social lubricant. And then the social lubricant goes from one beer or one whiskey to 10. And then I'm out till 5 a.m, and I wake up going, shit, what have I done? Who do I need to apologize to? This day's wasted. And it's really hard to build positive momentum when you're always starting 3 steps behind the blocks.
Yeah, definitely. Now we're going to go to our first break, but guys, when we get back after the advertisement break, we're going to touch on a little bit about what Lockie just spoke about, and that was about playing things big and not playing things small and leaving change on the table. So guys, watch this ad, and me and Lockie will be back with you in the next 60 seconds. Would you one day like to be a professional football player? Would you like to be part of our Pro Player Pathway? What is the Pro Player Pathway? It's an opportunity for all Australian football players aged between 10 and 23 who want to join us to become the next professional football player. On the Pro Player Pathway, you get to join me and my team free of charge to an event all around Australia. When you join me, we're going to teach you the secrets of football in Europe. And one day, maybe, you could be gracing the Champions League final. Guys, over the next 12 months, we're going to be coming around all the major cities in Australia. And when we come around all the major cities, we're going to be running our free events everywhere we go. So guys, what have you got to lose? Nothing. It's a free event. It's for boys and girls aged 10 to 23. And I'm going to teach you the secrets of becoming a top European football player. Oh, and one final thing. We're going to be giving away 20 scholarships to join me on this program of a lifetime. Hi everyone, this is Raymond Wood. We're back with our next episode. Now, we've just been speaking with Lockie in the first segment. We're back for our second segment. Hopefully you've enjoyed the advertisement. Now, Lockie, we've just spoken about playing things big, not leaving change on the table. Now, what we're about to touch on, I know for a fact there's going to be a lot of mums and dads out there, not so much the junior players who follow my podcast, but more so from the adults. They're going to not believe that this is possible. And I'm going to touch on this a little bit. So about 4 or 5 years ago, I decided to go down a journey of running. And I read a book by a guy called David Goggins. Now, if you would have said to me it was possible for me at the time to run a 10K, I would have said not a chance. Now, after reading this book called Can't Hurt Me, I then downloaded the audio book, and we'll touch on it a little bit later on. But I've just been very fortunate to be on a national tour with David Goggins, and most people on the planet know who David is now. Roll on 12, 18 months later after first reading this book, not only did I run my first 5K, then a 10K, then I was doing 70 to 80K training weeks. I then completed my first 4 to 5 marathons. I then went on to run an ultra marathon of 65 kilometers. And talk about trying to be positive when you're in the bottom of your lows. I was 61 Ks into a 65K race to be told there's a bushfire. We've now got to turn back and we've got to run 11 Ks backwards back to the last checkpoint. So I think I completed my first long ultra marathon was about 74 Ks. Now, the point I'm getting to with this is no one would have believed me that is possible. And what I'm about to share with Lockie, and the reason why Lockie's coming on, because Lockie, I want you to tell everyone a little bit. Now, most people will think this is crazy, but I think it shows you how much we leave on the table and how sometimes we think too small instead of thinking big. You're about to run not 50 states, but 58 states. Can you explain what you're doing and the 58 marathons that you're about to put your body through?
Yeah, it is one of those things that is hard to explain and help people comprehend. But for me, it's just been something that I've been working on for the last sort of 12 weeks. Not to this specifically, but every year it gets a little bit bigger as I push my own limitations. So running 58 marathons in 58 days across all 50 states of America and all 8 states and territories of Australia. So we're kicking off in Alaska in winter. So all of America will be winter. So we're going to be hitting, sub-zero, minus 15 degrees and blizzards and snowstorms and all of that sort of stuff, to then crossing over the time zone where I'll be running 3 marathons in the space of about 30 hours to land in Australia, where it's obviously going to be March by then. And we're probably going to get those nice humid conditions in Darwin and in Perth and back in Brisbane as well. And hopefully not, but I'm more than likely going to hit over 30 degrees Celsius there. So we're looking at it as, I look at it as like the marathon of life, Ray. I was on a podcast with the Iron Cowboy, if anyone's familiar with him. He's a gentleman who did 50 Ironmen in 50 days across 50 states. And then just after COVID, he did 101 Ironman in 101 days. And just for context, that is 3.8 kilometers swim, 180 kilometer ride, and a marathon to finish for 100 days straight. And I asked him on the podcast, I said, James, of those, they're both ridiculous, obviously, but which did you find more challenging? And he said, Lockie, the 50 Ironman in 50 days across 50 states, because of the logistics. like trying to travel, make sure that you made it to the next state within the allocated time limit, and you're dealing with, there's so many logistical things that can go wrong. And I was sitting there and he was telling me how he raised so many funds for a charity that he was passionate about. It was also something that he wanted to do personally. And I was sitting there, Ray, in America, and I've always doubted myself. My whole life, I've sabotaged myself because of doubt. I don't believe I should be in the position that I'm in, and I've always found a way to ruin that, whether it's through alcohol, through lying, cheating, manipulating, whatever it has been. And as I've gotten older, I've become a lot more responsible. I've started to develop a better relationship with myself, and I have a really great network of people around me. So I got off that call and I said, okay, I want to do something like that, but bigger with a twist. And that's where the winter came in. That's where bringing Australia back into it to cross the time zones came in. And I turned to my brother-in-law. I was like, what do you reckon about this? He's like, I'm in. That'll be awesome. I asked my wife a couple of days later, and Amy's like, nah, no chance. That's ridiculous. And then I called up a buddy of mine, Matt Lancashire from Brisbane here. And he's like, mate, you've got to do that. I'm in. Whatever you want to do, let's do it. So I went back to my wife again. I was like, look, Amy, I've got a team building where we could do this. And she's like, all right, get it out of your system, go do it. And that sort of put the wheels in motion and the excitement built. And for me, one of the things that I believe I'm put here to do, Ray, is I believe I'm athletically gifted. I believe I can inspire people to get more out of themselves by doing challenging things, maybe similar to David Goggins, but in my own way. And I've raised funds for mental health and had my own mental health issues my entire life. And we've been raising funds for the last 8 years. And the biggest limiting belief that I experience right now is I've never really wanted the attention while I've done these things. So my fundraising goals, for example, have been like $10,000 or $15,000. And this time I was like, okay, I'm going to make this $100,000. We're going to get 2,000 people moving with a challenge that we have going on, a 58-day, 1% better a day challenge. And that's going to be what I believe is like a benchmark of success. So not only will I get to push myself and experience that marathon of life where the first, even now is like that excitement zone when you set a goal or you commit to a dream where you think, oh, I could be doing something really amazing here. It's exciting. And then I'm sure I'm going to experience it probably on day 3 or 4 where the reality of it kicks in. The hard work kicks in and you go, okay, this is going to be tough. Like, am I going to choose to react and complain and not enjoy this experience? Or am I going to respond and raise my character and do whatever I can to get through this, looking after my recovery, leaning on my support team, making sure that I'm fueling myself well and just getting up day after day to complete that task. And then you obviously get that euphoric moment at the end upon completion. But for me, the people that we get to bring along with it from all around the world who are tuning in is going to be pretty exciting and pretty inspiring. And Ray, one of the cool things, I did a talk for a company on Wednesday, and they committed to knocking $100,000 out of the park for the fundraising. So now this will be the first time I've publicly said it. We're moving that fundraising goal to $1 million, which for me is very daunting. It's a lot of responsibility, but it's also, I have this opportunity to sink or swim, and I choose, I don't like sinking. So I want to swim and I want to step up and become the individual who can burden that responsibility and help impact more people with positive mental health and inspiration.
Yeah, that goal is phenomenal. It was funny when I first seen your target of $100,000, and it was funny how I've realised when I look in the mirror every day how I've changed as a person, because I seen your goal as $100,000 at first, and I'm like, why is he leaving it so small? And the first thing in my head, I've gone $10 million. So when you said $1 million, I'm like, Lockie, seriously, mate, I am telling you now, not only will you get our support, you're going to get the whole planet's support, mate. So can we go for 10 million?
Mate, this is why I love being around people like you, because you stretch people to grow. And I can tell everyone right now, my hands are sweating thinking about that, because to me it seems so far out of reach, but it also is something that I believe we could strive towards. If I want to be honest, I reckon we could do 2 million. 10 million to me scares the absolute Jesus out of me. absolute bejeebers out of me. But hey,
I say,
anyone listening, if you think we can do 10 million, let's do it.
yeah, let's do it. I mean, I'm saying it to my families, and I know some of my parents think I'm crazy, and I'm like, I want to know when we're pulling it back into a football context, what's your big dream? And I'll get kids, and the kids will say, oh, I want to play for Real Madrid, but then the dad's like nudging them, going, well, we'd like to maybe play A-League, and then we'll see where we go. And my big thing is, no. My granddad used to always have a saying. He said to me, and he used to have biscuits in his cupboard. And he was quite smart, my granddad, because he'd have the plain biscuits within reach, but the chocolate biscuits were up high, and he was 6'5", so only you could reach them. And he used to say to us, Ray, if you only ever aim for the plain digestives, the best case scenario you can get to the plain digestives. He said, but if you work out a way to aim for the chocolate digestives in the next shelf, or you might not always get a chocolate digestive, but you're always going to be guaranteed a plain digestive. Where if you only ever aim for the plain digestive, you might not get that plain digestive. So, Lockie, we're aiming for 10 million.
That's the goal. That makes me, makes me very uncomfortable, but I also do love a challenge.
Now, we're going to talk about your 58 states, and let's talk about like the US first. So you're kicking off in Alaska, and then you're going to move your way around. I've had a look at your map and where you're going. How are you doing that? Are you staying in hotels? Have you got a mobile home? Can you explain to our listeners how that's going to be possible?
Yeah, so we start in Alaska. So we're obviously flying to Alaska. We'll run in Anchorage, and then we'll fly back to Seattle, where we've got a motorhome. And so I've booked the motorhome to take for obviously 50 days or 51 days. And they actually called me last Thursday, and they were like, Lockie, just wanted to confirm you're aware we have to winterize your van. And I said, I wasn't aware of that, but winter, that makes sense that something has to happen. So can you please explain that? And they just said, basically, because you're in sub-zero conditions, you can't have the running shower or the running toilet because the pipes will swell and bust. So you're going to have to like find caravan parks and stuff. So we invested obviously a fair bit of money in this motorhome. And then now we've found out we've got to book caravan parks or, spots every night to be able to plug the car in and make sure it doesn't break down. So we'll be staying in homes, but essentially how it works, I'm very lucky. My brother-in-law, awesome with logistics, happy to drive. We've got a documentary crew coming. When I say crew, I've got one guy with his cameras and all of that sort of stuff, and he's using his team back here. And then I've got a buddy that I played rugby with in France who's he's a psychologist, so he'll help me and he'll run a few. And then Matt Lancashire as well is coming over with his son because he wants to inspire his son to see what it takes to achieve big things. And so every day, some days we'll be ranging drives from sort of 6 to 8 hours to the next place. Then we'll sleep and get up in the morning and go again. But I think one of the most challenging things, Ray, is going to be, obviously, when you run a marathon, I'm aiming to do them all in about 4 hours a day. Now, obviously, as I get more fatigued or the cold weather stiffens the body up, I'm going to have to spend at least an hour warming up and loosening the body up. I've got leg sleeves that will be coming with me to make sure my circulation's going well and flushing the legs so that I can recover well. And then the hardest part about the whole thing that I believe is going to be eating enough food. So I eat about 2,000 calories a day. Well, I was eating about 2,000 calories a day, which is the standard, I guess, recommendation for the average male. I've got to get up to 5,000 calories. So at the moment, I'm doing about 3,700. So I've still got about 1,300 to build up to. And you don't just click the fingers and start eating that many calories. Like, you have to train your stomach to be able to do that. So it's literally, even now, I think to me personally, Ray, the hardest part is learning to eat, sleep, and train. So logistically, we're going to be on the move nonstop. And people are often asked, what happens, if you do get stuck in a blizzard? And if we do that, I have to rerun that state. So for example, if we're in Colorado and there's a snowstorm and we can't get to Utah, the next place, I'll have to rerun that marathon in Colorado and then, continue on. And the challenge is we've booked flights to leave San Diego back to Hawaii onto Sydney on the 11th of March. So we can't afford to push any days around or anything like that. So if I find myself in that position, I'm going to have to do a number of back-to-back marathons in specific days just to catch up time so we make sure we hit our flights. So logistically, I'm nervous because we don't have much margin for error, because in order to meet the time zones and to make it every consecutive day, we have to abide by those rules, and we have to make sure that we get to every state. So that's how that's going to be happening. I am very lucky. I'll be sitting in the back on my bed, sleeping, probably listening to some podcasts or chilling out, and my awesome team will be making sure that, you know, we're making headway. And we're very lucky as well. LSKD is a major sponsor, and they're going to be putting on events all around America for us. So they're going to have these things called activations. So, you know me, Ray, I love being around people, but I'm also someone that my energy gets drained a lot being around people. So it's a big effort to show up and be happy and chirpy. And obviously throw on top of that a couple of marathons, I'm going to be quite drained. And then I'm going to be rolling into Chicago or rolling into New York, for example. And there's going to be, you know, hundreds of people or however many people there that want to be part of it, want to run and do all of that sort of media stuff. And so for me, that's going to be challenging as well, but also something that I'm very grateful for, because I get to meet people from all around the world. I'll get to hear people's stories while we're running. And, you know, I also get to have that positive impact on people's mental health, because I do believe if you want to feel better, you start moving better. And we get people out, we get them into communities. And that's, to me, what I'm very excited about.
Yeah, it's super exciting, and I'm just so happy to be able through our network to share this message, because again, one of the big things we're always trying to do is convince more so mums and dads that anything's possible in this world. And I think if we can inspire one family and one player, it's gonna be a big thing. And I've got no doubt, Lockie, that when you start your journey and when you finish it, I think you're gonna look back yourself and think, oh my word, how did I get through those particular days, blizzards, snowstorms? But I think the fact that you're documenting it all to show people as well that things aren't easy, things are hard, and there's always going to be hurdles. But with a good support team and a network around you, you know, anything's possible. Now, guys, we're just going to go to our final ad break, and when we come back, we are going to be touching on a little bit about Lockie and his support crew, about some of the hurdles he's going to face, but also then about once he comes back into Australia for the last 8 marathons and what that's going to feel like. So watch this space, guys. We're just going to go to our final ad break, and we'll be back with me, Raymond Wood, and Lockie for our final part of this amazing podcast.
Hey everyone, we are coming around every major city in Australia over the next 12 months. We have got free objective football testing going on, guys. It's for boys and girls aged 10 all the way through to 18 years of age. The objective testing is quite simple. We'll put you through our 6 tests and it'll give you your results: physical, technical and tactical. And also, we're going to choose 16 winners to join us on an all expenses paid trip to Europe in 2024 and also 2025. Guys, what have you got to lose? Nothing. It's free to sign up. You get free objective testing and you'll get a free feedback, and maybe you'll be joining me at the Santiago Bernabeu in 2024 or 25.
Hi everyone, it's Raymond Wood. We are back with Lockie, and for our final segment of this amazing podcast. Now, Lockie, we just spoke about the trials, tribulations, the weather that you're going to be up against. So if anyone wants to support this, obviously we'll share all the links in our show notes, but are you open to people joining you on any of the marathons, or is it a closed thing? Do you prefer your own space and just focus on you? What's the go with that if people reach out to you and want to come and run with you in one of the marathons? What's the rules around it?
So we will have it open. So on the website, you can just head to mentalawarenessfoundation.org, and you'll see the 58 to 58 challenge. And so essentially we're going to open up a number of them. So we'll have those events run properly. Obviously, we'll have a number of sponsors, and people will be able to come for 5, 10, 15, 20 or a full, but not everyone, because there will be, I think I've learned a lot about my body and my mind, and there will be some days where I just need to run by myself and grind it out. And I don't want to ever come across, you know, snappy or anything to people. So we sort of want to control that, but a list of which ones will be available will be open to people. So there'll be I'd say we'll get about 15 in America where people will be able to join. And that's obviously a lot of your major cities there, and Nashville and San Diego and Chicago, Boston, all of that sort of stuff. And then Australia, we'll be looking to do, obviously Brisbane will be the finale, but people will be joining in most of the states here in Australia. So I'd say about probably not Canberra, just because we're in and out in 7 hours. So I won't really have time to to Dawdle. So that'll be the go with that one.
In relation to the marathons that you do and stuff, but more so for our avid runners, and as you know, I'm a really avid runner. Are you following each state's particular marathon route that they normally do, or are you just designing your own marathon route?
I've used Strava. So Strava is very good for showing you like marathon routes and stuff like that. So I've got 3 variations for each place. What we're going to do when we get there is just check it out. Because one thing that I've learned from living in America, Ray, is you can be in one neighborhood and it's extremely nice, and you cross the train line and you're in another neighborhood and you very quickly realize you shouldn't be there. So if there's any instances like that, obviously, you know, I want to be as safe as possible as well. So we'll do our best. And once again, we'll put all of that up. We're going to have a tracker on the website so people can, you know, track where we're up to as well.
Yeah, it's going to be phenomenal. I'm so excited, and I've just myself about 4 months ago come from the decompression of my back surgery, and I'm running again. I've done a couple of 5Ks and 10Ks, and I'm hoping that I've got a bit of a surprise for you in the next couple of weeks, and I'll share it with you on one of our social posts. But hoping that if the opportunity is available to be there on your first one, the one in Hawaii, and your final one, and we've got something that we'd like to support you with, and I'm gonna reveal that in the next couple of weeks on our socials. So my vision is, I was told I'd never ever run again. I got an amazing back surgery by probably one of the best back specialists in the world, and he's actually based in Brisbane, a guy called Stephen Yang. My dream is, after being told a year ago I'm probably 6 months away from being in a wheelchair, to be able to run again. If I could run 3 more marathons before I hang up my shoes, so I'd love to join you on your first one, the one in Hawaii, and then the final one in Brisbane.
Mate, that'd be amazing. Let's make that happen.
And I think the big thing that I've realised is the cross-sharing of socials as well, which will be really useful to try and get it out there so we can get you as many sponsors. And I was speaking to a particular person who I was on tour with a couple of weeks ago, and we're going to see if we can make something pretty special happen for you as well.
Oh, mate, appreciate that. And I just want to also touch on that for you. Like, if you think about the position you were in 6 months ago, where people were saying you're down and out and you might be in a wheelchair and never running again, and the fact that you didn't take that as gospel and you went and sought other advice, and here you are looking to run 3 more marathons, I think it's a very important lesson that I hope lands with a lot of people, because there's been people that have doubted me, people who have told me that certain things could never happen. And even though I doubt myself, there's still this innate drive within that I believe I'm here for something special. And I think everyone on this planet is here for something special. And if you can tune into that, and if people tell you no, it doesn't mean that it's not possible. It's just, to them, it's not possible. You just need to find a way and also learn to prove people wrong.
It is, and it's one of the scary things. That's that exact message I want to get out to people. I mean, I was told 12 months ago by a GP that I had a condition called spinal stenosis. I had arthritis all through my lower back, and I was pretty much told that basically I've just got to make myself as comfortable as possible. And within the next 12 to 18 months, because of the severity and the pain I was in, I was heading towards that wheelchair. There was no options open to me. The only other option he said you could do is to fuse your back together. Now, if anyone who's had that operation done, that's probably an operation you don't want to get done, is fusing your back together, for many reasons. And I'm so glad I didn't listen. I went and looked at other areas of advice, and actually one of them was someone within Function Well Gym, was actually Darren, who I spoke to, because he's had similar back problems himself. And I went and seen this specialist, and he made me aware, you know, we're all getting old and this is what happens to your body. He said, but can you get this fixed and can you be running again? He said, you've got about a 60% chance. He said, and if you trust in me, I'll give it a go. And roll on 16 or 15 weeks later, post-surgery, you know, I've done 10 or 11 5K runs, and I'll be honest, I've never felt this good. And the scary thing was, if I would have took that GP's advice, I'd be basically eyeing up a wheelchair in the next 6 months, and that's where I was going. I was in that much pain. But to then go and have the decompression surgery and get it fixed is like, again, exactly what you just said. It's so important. You don't just take one person's advice. You actually seek other people's advice and never, ever give up on a dream.
It's inspirational, and that's what I love. And I think, to circle back to my point at the beginning of this, and I think another thing that people could take away from it, even just being around yourself or people that I get to hang around, or even some people who maybe hang around with me, just being in proximity of people who are pushing the boundaries and who are doing things that you want to do, it's only going to elevate you. You're going to learn, if we look at success, it's very easy to jump on ChatGPT or Google and say, how do I get to this position? But it's not until you get around the people who are actually doing it that you learn the things that you really need to get there. Because a framework's beautiful, but if you're hanging around with Ray, he's going to tell you so many things that you won't find on the internet in order to help those 1% improvements. And the 1% is what we're looking for. Much like many of the people I work with or the people that I have mentor me, I pick up things from them, and I'm just like, I can't believe that I never knew that. Like, that was nowhere. And you just observe how people think, act, and behave in their daily life, and they're the nuggets of wisdom that we need.
Yeah, 100%. Now, look, we could go on. I could sit here for 2-3 hours talking about this, but we've got about 5 minutes to go. But one of the things I wanted to ask you as well for our listeners, Lockie, is, have you actually researched, has anyone ever done this before? Has anyone ever done 58 marathons in 58 states?
Not in 58 states, no. So I'll be the first person to do it, and I think I'm also the first person to do just the 50 states of America in winter. So there has been, I think we're up to, and also in consecutive days, I think there's 4 people who have ever done the 50 states of America in 50 days consecutively. No one's ever done it in winter, and no one's ever done 58 states in 58 consecutive days across 2 countries. So that'll be a world first. Unless if there is anyone out there who has that isn't on the internet that I could find anywhere, please let me know. But as far as I'm aware, no.
I love the point you made before about Amy saying, look, if you're going to do it, just get it out your system now and do it. But I've got a sneaky feeling knowing you, and exactly what Amy's probably thinking. She's probably thinking, have I started something here? Because what's going to be next? Every country in Europe.
Mate, well, isn't it just a great way to see the world, though, right? I just think,
yeah.
And it's funny because I think 2 nights ago I was laying there with Amy, and I was like, so think about this for the next one. If we have like kids, we'll be able to get a motorhome and they'll get to see America. She's like, Lockie, no, you said this was the last one. I was like, okay, we'll discuss that in a couple of years then.
I think she started something here by agreeing, so I think she's going to be in trouble.
I agree.
So just to finish off, Lockie, obviously we will share it in the show notes, but if anyone wants to jump on and donate or wants to apply to see if they can come and run with you, where do they go to and how do they get all this information?
So you can just head to the Mental Awareness Foundation, which is the charity that we're raising funds for. So mentalawarenessfoundation.org/58258, all numbers, or you can just head to the manthatcanproject.com and there's a link to that as well, or just my Instagram, which I'm most active on, which is Lachlan Stewart.
Yeah, that's amazing. And look, obviously, I know you're going to be very busy over the next few months, but one of the things we'd love to do is once you've completed your challenge, is to get you back on for another podcast, and also not just to talk about the challenge that you've just done, but also to talk about your Man That Can project as well, which I follow you avidly. You know, you're a big inspiration to me, but also not just to me as well. It's funny that it's aimed around males, but even like my 2 girls, like they're always looking out to see what posts you've got on. And Livy, my eldest, is always saying, Dad, Lockie's done this and he's seen this, and she keeps an avid eye on the social. So a big thank you, mate. You do inspire me and the 2 girls so much.
I appreciate that, Matt, and it's always great to hear when it has an impact on people outside of the people that I think I'm talking to, because at the end of the day, I think a lot of the principles that make us better men make people better people in general as well.
Yeah, no, a big thank you, Lockie. So look, from me at the Rainwood Podcast, everyone at Euro Football Star and Professional Player Pathway, we wish you the best of luck. Obviously, I'll be in touch and we will catch up when I finally get back to Brisbane.
Yeah, when you make it back here.
If I can get a plane to get me back home safely. And then, we'll be in touch, mate. And as I say, I'm going to be in touch with a special announcement on socials. And if you'll have me for a few of your marathons, the plan is to come and spend a bit of time with you.
That'd be amazing. And thanks again for having me on, mate. As I said, you're an inspiration to me. You're impacting thousands of people's life and you're on this incredible trajectory. And for me, it's just always inspiring to know that I've seen the hard work that you've done. You've put yourself out there and it's paying off, and you're a true testament to what you're trying to teach your players and the people that come within your life.
Thanks, Lockie. Thanks, mate. So Guys, that's me over and out from the Rainbow Podcast. A big thank you to Lockie for joining us in my studio while I'm here in Sydney. And the best of luck with everything, Lockie, and no doubt we'll be hearing more about you kicking more goals over the next couple of weeks.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, team. Have a great week. Hi everyone, this is Raymond Wood at the Raymond Wood Podcast. We haven't done an episode for a couple of weeks, but we're glad to be back in the studio recording here in Brisbane. We're so excited. We've got Connor Wallace back with us again. You've probably seen Connor before, maybe over 12 months ago. Connor is originally from Ireland. He's a boxer and he's pushing through the ranks and he's going up into the tables to be that number one contender. How are you, Connor?
Yeah, really good. Thank you very much for having me on.
No, thanks for joining us, Connor. So obviously we wanted to touch base. Obviously we first had you on probably about 12, 18 months ago, just as you were starting your journey again, going through your fights and stuff and that. And since then, obviously you've been through an injury and we'll talk about that. And then you got back into your boxing again, but how's everything been going?
Yeah, it's been going well. Obviously, you know, it can't be being in that ring and under the bright lights, you know what I mean? You can do all the training you want, but there's nothing like fight night. So it's good to be back in, healthy, fit, and both hands are 100% after the surgeries and stuff. So going well, yeah.
That's amazing. Now, we first met a couple of years ago over at Function Well, the gym. We'll give them a little bit of a pump. I know those guys help you out over there as well. Amazing gym facility. And we got chatting and we heard each other's accents and knew I was from Liverpool, you were from Ireland. And then obviously I discovered pretty quickly you were a boxer. It was great to really first meet you. And obviously I've seen you over the past couple of years and being in elite sports myself and seeing you rise and how you go. And it's been such a good journey so far, hasn't it, for you?
Yeah, it has. You know yourself, like being in that, it's all part of the journey, you know, and people you meet along the way and stuff. It's good. And I think that's one thing about me and yourself. I'd talk to anyone, I think, from seeing you in Function Well or whatever, you know. We're always, even if it's not just me or you, we're always talking to someone. So it's good the people you meet along the way, and that's all part of the journey.
Now, one of the big things I wanted to speak to you about, and we've got a lot of athletes and players on our programme, and unfortunately players suffer injuries, and whether they're out for a month or 12 months. And we've got a lot of younger players under the age of 16 and the trials and tribulations of getting over injuries. Now, I remember, I think it was over 12 months ago, you had quite a bad injury to your hand. Could you talk to our listeners a little bit about that, what the injury was? But also, like, from your point of view, did you stay down in the doldrums and feel sorry for yourself, or did you stay laser focused, and how did you sort of come over that injury?
Yeah, well, to be honest, that was my second bad injury that you see me with 12 months ago. A bit before that, just during COVID, I actually broke my left hand first, and it was a very bad injury. I had massive surgery on it. It was meant to be career-ending, that injury, but great hand surgeon, Dr. Stephen Fredrickson, he looked after both my hands and got the left one sorted, and then I was back in the ring, had a couple of fights, and then I lost my first fight back after my hand surgery, so that was a bit of a bump in the road, but it was good, you know. Made me realise to go back to the drawing board. Yeah. Obviously, I was unbeaten until then, you know, so just goes to show you when things don't go your way, you got to change something, and made me hungrier, you know. I wasn't this unbeaten prospect anymore. Yeah. And I really got stuck in and back to the drawing board, seeing where I went wrong, and built from that, you know. And I think it was the best thing that ever could have happened to me, you know, that first loss, and undefeated, went from strength to strength since that, you know. And obviously the one you seen with was the right hand. I broke it during a fight in the rematch with the guy that I lost to. So that was my first loss, and then I'm that type of person. You know, when I lose, I want to get him back. You know, it was always in my head. So I had a couple of fights, then I went back for him. They offered me the rematch, and 100% I took it. So in that fight, I broke my hand in the second round. And I ended up knocking him out in the sixth. So basically fought for 4 rounds with a broken hand. But it is all, as I say, as you talked about a minute ago, the journey, you know, it's all part of the journey. So I ended up getting 6 screws and some bone from my hip in this right hand. So, you know, but like, I never ever got sidetracked. You know, I came through a lot in my career, and, you know, there's always going to be injuries and stuff, but you have to really, that's my job, you know what I mean? Yeah. The main thing for me was getting it right. There's heaps of stuff I could do, even whenever I was injured, you know, shadow boxing, lots of running, because with now and you know yourself, with the the surgery these days you can get. Well, you're not in the cast anymore as such.
Yeah.
You know, you're in that like little plastic thing. So
Yeah.
as long as I can still run, there's heaps of stuff I can still do. You know, and
So that's like one of the key bits of advice I think you're giving to our athletes is that even if you've got a setback, let's say it's your right leg,
Yeah.
obviously you've still got a left leg.
Yeah.
You've still got your arms. You can still get in a swimming pool, or you can still do something. Is that your message to them?
100%. Yeah, like that's only that's only a minor thing. You know, there's lots of other stuff you can do. It's not just one part of the game. You know, I know
Yeah.
it is punching, but you know your fitness, your cardio, your strength, core, everything is, and obviously for the head as well. It's good to be doing something. You know.
Is there like one bit of advice for like youngsters out there? Because we've had a young boy who's only 11 on the program. He's just broke his leg for the second time in 12 months, and he's very, very obviously upset at the moment and frustrated. Is there one little bit of advice you could give someone who's in that position? Like, what would you say to him or say to her?
Yeah, you know, it's obviously it's a couple of sayings that I like. You know, tough times don't last, tough people do. You know,
Yeah.
so that's one thing that always really stuck in my mind. And even in my little gym I had back home in Ireland, I had my quote underneath it was "Don't count the days, make the days count." You know, so stuff like that always like sits in my mind because people who were older than me, I heard these along the way and stuff, and
Yeah.
just being around more experienced people and stuff, you pick up little things, you know.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing for me. So, you know, it makes you realize how much you actually want it
Yeah.
whenever stuff like this happens. And I think it's a test of character and
Yeah.
stuff like that, you know. So,
That's one of the things that we do with our parents, and sometimes they say we can be a little bit harsh, like, because we just say to the parents that you need to just get the kids over the line with this stuff and support them with it. And a lot of them do pull away a little bit, and I'm guilty of it as well. I've got 2 daughters. I know you've got a daughter, and we'll talk about it in a moment, but you do sometimes mollycoddle and protect them, but I think sometimes you got to really toughen them up. And I'm just saying off air before, like, we've just been on a tour with David Goggins, and anyone knows who David Goggins is. He's an ex-Navy SEAL. He's run like the Moab, which is a 250-mile race with a broken leg.
Yeah.
Like, and you know, you're just saying, you know, you've gone 4 rounds in a boxing match with a broken hand, and you've still managed to win the fight. So when you think you're down and out, you're not.
Yeah.
You can still keep pushing through.
yeah, definitely. And like even in that fight, you know, my coach was like, he goes, "Why are you not jabbing?" I was like, "I can't jab my hand. My hand is broke." You know what I mean? And he was like, "Oh."
Oh, no.
He was like, "Jai Opataya fought with a broken jaw.
Yeah.
Do you want this?" I was like, "Yeah, 100%. He goes, "Do you want to quit?" I was like, "No, definitely not. I'm a doubt." And if you watch the fight back, you can see me. I was like just touching him with my right, and then like
Trying to
punch
hit
him with
your
the left.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I actually did catch him with like a hook and with these bottom 2 knuckles, and because it was the top 2 where the damage was done, you can see the scar on my hand.
Yeah.
But I ended up catching him with a hook. But then when I got him in the corner, I was like throwing 4 lefts for every 1 right, you know.
Yeah.
But obviously with the adrenaline and stuff, when you're in there, you don't really feel the pain as bad. But I tell you, I was in pain the next couple of days, and they couldn't even do the surgery because of the swelling.
Was
You
that
have
bad?
to wait a little bit, you know.
Yeah, to let that swell and
What?
settle down.
Oh, the hand was like a balloon.
Now, being obviously me and my 2 girls, we love you. We love coming and watching you fight. We're always on the socials. My eldest girl follows you, sees every post. She'll come running in and go, "Dad Connor's being on the news today." And like, it's really exciting for us to see someone in a different sport and see you rise. And it's so nice to hear that, you know, you talk about you had a loss, but then you just went, right, I'm going to get back in there and go again. And you didn't see it as a bad thing. You're seeing it as a positive. I think that's one of the things that we're trying to impress on all of our players on our program, that there is going to be upsets along the way. You are going to fail at things, but it's how you respond to that, isn't it? And I think you're a testament to that.
Yeah, definitely. You know what I mean. And obviously, I'm a very competitive person. Don't get me wrong. You know, the loss did really annoy me, but you can either sit down and let it get the better of you, or else stand up and
Yeah.
and really come back stronger. And I think that's what it did. I think I went from strength to strength, and it probably took a lot of pressure off me as well, because I wasn't that undefeated prospect anymore. You know,
Yeah.
all these amateur fights, and he's undefeated, and a few more people started to want to fight me. You know what I mean? And it was better. It probably worked out better for me in the long run. And look where I am now, number 2 in the world. So, and we're still climbing. You know, we're getting better with every fight. And that's what we want to do. We want to keep raising that bar. You know, starting every camp fitter, stronger, faster. Because if you don't, you're going to be left behind. You know.
So anyone who doesn't follow boxing, what weight division do you fight in?
So I fight in light heavyweight.
Light
That's
heavyweight.
The two below heavyweight. It's 79.3
Kilos.
Yeah, that's the limit.
That's about 30 kilos lighter than me. I was that weight.
I'm maybe not 79 at the minute, but give me a couple of weeks, so it'll be all right.
So
fatherhood, obviously, I've seen you, obviously, you and your partner, and obviously you've got your lovely daughter, and we're just talking off here, like she's 7 months. I just can't believe it. One of the key ones in football is a player who plays for Liverpool, and he's called Curtis Jones. And what's been really interesting, we've done studies in the past on how when you become a father or a mother, how it can sometimes change you for the better or sometimes for the worse. And Curtis Jones, I'll be honest, the Liverpool player, he's always been one of them. He's from Liverpool, he's always been a good player, but he's never ever really gone above and beyond and really looked like he fitted. He became a father 3 months ago, and since being a father, he's man of the match every game for Liverpool. He's now getting his debut for England. Has it changed you, being a father, and in any way, for the better, for the worse? Like, how does it affect your training and all that?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I definitely think it changes your whole outlook and perspective on life, you know what I mean? Obviously, because people say, like, it's the best thing that'll ever happen to you, having a child, but people say that to you all the time, and, but until it actually happens, you're like, holy shit, she's actually mine, she's my daughter, and then it makes me hungry, you know what I mean? It gets me up out of bed in the morning, because I know it's not just myself and my partner that I'm supporting anymore, I'm doing it for her, and what I do now, the hard work I put in and the sacrifices I make, it's all to give my daughter the best life she possibly can, you know what I mean, and provide and stuff, and that being the man of the house, that's a given anyway, you know what I mean, if it's in work or if it's in any aspect of life, but it definitely has, obviously I have her name on my shorts and stuff, my fight shorts, and we had her in the ring and stuff, and it's been unbelievable, I take her everywhere with me, you know what I mean, she came into our life, you know what I mean, it wasn't like, we changed everything to suit her, and it's been unbelievable. She's in the gym, everyone loves her, it's unreal,
Now, obviously, my girls are 16 and 10, and I've got a big baseball bat behind the door for the boyfriends. Obviously, you won't have that problem. You got your 2 hands, but good luck anyone who comes knocking on the door to take her on a date.
I think with the temper she has, I don't know. I think she'll be
fine. Now, we talk a little bit about, like, balance and everything in life, and obviously, have you found, like, since you've got the little one now, the balance and training, do you have to be a little bit more organised with your time, or is it just the case of, like, what you said, you just whip it up and she comes with you everywhere where you can?
Oh, well, yes and no, a little bit of both, obviously. My partner's great as well, and we got her in a good routine from the start. She's been sleeping well, eating well, but we sort of keep her in that routine, but she comes into the gym and stuff and everything with me, and it's good. My partner, she does a bit of training and stuff as well, and it's good. Everything works well, but I think the main thing is routine, and I'm a big person, but anyone that knows me knows what I'm like.
Yeah.
There's not too much I change in a weekday. I always do the same sort of thing on a weekly basis, Yeah. I train in the morning, get breakfast, get it into function well for a bit of recovery. Between sessions, then I go home and spend a bit of time with my daughter and stuff, and then back in for my evening session, and obviously with the help of my sponsors and stuff, I'm able to do that, I'm a full-time athlete, and without the help of my sponsors and stuff, I wouldn't be able to do what I do,
Yeah. Just in regards to sponsors, obviously, we'd love to give your sponsors a little bit of a pump on here. Who are some of the key ones that have really helped you over the years, Connor?
Yeah, I have a couple of major sponsors now, that GLB Equipment, that have been very helpful, been with me a long time, and Zenko Mining Services. We've got Mazda Aspley, the driving a top of the range car,
Amazing.
We got ADI Auto Group. We got
what we can do is as well for you, we'll share all the sponsors on
100%,
on the program.
I've got them all on the back of my t-shirt anyway, which is good. I put them on my fight shorts and everything. They've been around a while, the 2B Limitless and stuff, but without the likes of these people, you know what I mean, I cannot do what I do, and that's why I'm very grateful, and I'll never forget where I come from, you know what I mean, and where I started,
Yeah, that's fantastic. Now, we'll talk about it now before we go to our first ad break, but we've got the big fight coming up on December 11th, so do you want to talk a little bit about who you're fighting and a little bit about this fighter's background? Has he got any losses on his record, and what are you feeling for the fight coming up?
Yeah, well, this will be my 4th fight within 12 months, which is good,
Yeah.
Look, very excited to get another one in before the end of the year, and to be headlining again on DAZN. It's huge,
Yeah.
Coming off a massive win, probably the biggest win of my career, my last fight. You can't get sidetracked, you know what I mean? The main goal is to win that world title. So any slip off from here on in, I slip back down the rankings. So a win here is very important for me. Like, every fight's a world title fight from now on in. You don't want to be don't want to be losing or slipping down the rankings, or else it's all your hard work's nearly undone. That's the cruel thing about boxing.
Yeah.
But that's why we love it so much.
Yeah.
So, I'm fighting a South African guy, an undefeated South African.
Wow.
Ashmere Wellham is his name. I think that's how I pronounce it, but I don't really mind. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it a little bit. It's a Fortitude Music Hall on the 11th. We've been watching and studying him. He looks like a pretty slick boxer and stuff.
Yeah.
Unlike the last few opponents have been like aggressive, sort of come forward fighters, do you know what I mean? Big punchers. So he's a bit more of a. So it'll be good to test my skills against someone who boxes a little bit more, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to beat all these boys.
We do on our program with our players match analysis, and it's really, really important, this match analysis, that we go into like a real individualized match analysis to help our players. Now, obviously, yours is an individualized sport. How much time do you spend on analysing the other player, and do you focus more on being sort of proactive and just believe in your strengths and go out with your plan, or are you a little bit reactive as well onto how they box and fight? Does that determine how you fight?
Well, we sort of sit down as a team. Obviously, my coach Greg Eadie's the best, one of the best coaches in the game, or if not the best. I believe he's the best. But just the way he breaks down to beat someone in the most simplest way, you know, no fancy business. We've never done any of that fancy stuff, you know, that fancy pad work. He'll just tell you the simplest and easiest way to beat someone.
Yeah.
And that's why I have full belief in him. And I think it's shown in the last few fights where I might have been an underdog in some of the fights, and they come out on top, you know what I mean? And that's purely down to him, you know what I mean? I do the boxing, obviously, I put in the work and stuff, but without the likes of a great coach and Greg Eadie, you know, I wouldn't be where I am, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of people make up the team. I've got my strength and conditioning coach Phil, obviously my manager Steve, and Tasman Fighters from a promoter. But like, it's me and Greg put the work in every day, and obviously with my strength coach Phil, being with him 3 or 4 mornings a week as well. So it's not just, I know it might be an individual sport, but again,
there's
like
a huge team around you.
100%.
Yeah. That's one of the things I noticed with my eldest girl, Liv, like being a tennis player. Like, she's got 2 or 3 coaches around her, strength and conditioning coach. It's important you have a lot of people around you to support you, because it is lonely, isn't it, when you're in that ring and you're on your own?
Oh, it is 100%. But like, you know, if you put the work in, it's the fighting's the fun part for me. You know what I mean? I don't train just to train. Like, I train to fight. You know what I mean? And that's why I think that's why I love it so much. And I think you can see from coming to my fights how much I love the fight night and stuff. You know, that's what it's all about. You know, I live for the big nights, the bright lights, and all. So that's what drives me and gets me up in the sessions. I know it's a lonely sport, in the sessions you don't feel like doing, but then you just think about that feeling like getting your hand raised and everyone there, and maybe getting across to Finn McCool's after for a pint with all the boys and everyone that came to support you. It's unbelievable, you know. So that's what it's all about, you know. I think anyone that hasn't watched me, you know, I think if you tune in and watch it, you'll see what it's all about, you know. But the Irish is like, and I have a big Australian fan base here as well now. You know, it's growing and growing with every fight.
Yeah. So you obviously do fight under Australia or Ireland, because I get so confused because I see so many Irish flags when we go to the fights, but obviously you live in Australia. I take it you're a resident, or you're a citizen. Yeah. Well, I actually have both flags on my
sure? Even though I come out like in green, white, and orange, the kit, but I still everyone knows I'm Irish and stuff. You know, if I'm Irish.
The accent is the giveaway.
But then if the people back in Ireland hear me talking, they're like, "Oh, he's got an Aussie accent now," you know. But I can't. I don't even realise it. I myself have been here that long, but yeah, I've got the Irish flag and the Australian flag. You know,
brilliant.
A lot of good Aussie people and sponsors and stuff around me, and you need that, you know.
Yeah. Guys, we could keep chatting, but we're just going to go to our first ad break, and when we come back, we're going to be carrying on with Conor Wallace.
Would you one day like to be a professional football player? Would you like to be part of our Pro Player Pathway? What is the Pro Player Pathway? It's an opportunity for all Australian football players aged between 10 and 23 who want to join us to become the next professional football player. On the Pro Player Pathway, you get to join me and my team free of charge to an event all around Australia. When you join me, we're going to teach you the secrets of football in Europe. And one day, maybe, you could be gracing the Champions League final. Guys, over the next 12 months, we're going to be coming around all the major cities in Australia. And when we come around all the major cities, we're going to be running our free events everywhere we go. So guys, what have you got to lose? Nothing. It's a free event. It's for boys and girls aged 10 to 23. And I'm going to teach you the secrets of becoming a top European football player. Oh, and one final thing. We're going to be giving away 20 scholarships to join me on this programme of a lifetime.
Hi everyone, it's Raymond Wood. We're back for part 2 with Connor Wallace. Now, Connor, we were talking about your big fight coming up on the 11th of December. We're talking about family and children. One of the big things, we get some questions in from our athletes, and one of the big questions we got from one of our players was, what sort of like training regimen are you on at the moment, and how does it change on the run-up to your fight night?
Yeah. So, obviously, we've got the boxing every day. That's a given. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
5 o'clock every day I do my boxing, and then in the morning times I have 3 mornings a week I do my strength and conditioning, and 3 mornings a week I do my run.
Yeah.
So depending on where you are in camp, obviously you're doing all the hard stuff. The start of the camp, the long Ks, the heavy strength stuff, and as I get closer to the fight and as the sparring all starts, like sparring takes priority. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's fight now we're doing. So you can do all the running, all the strength, and all you want, but we have to get in that ring and fight. You know, so
Yeah.
that's a big thing, and I think a lot of fighters do get carried away with, oh, they got to do this weight session, got to do this. That's not going to help you whenever you're in sparring and somebody's punching the head off you. You know what I mean? It's fight. We have to fight. You know what I mean? So, obviously, as you put the hard work in, but I like to, whenever I'm sparring and stuff, it takes priority, and you want to be sparring fresh, because obviously if you're not sparring well, that plays in your head.
Yeah.
As such, do you know what I mean? Some people don't spar that well. Like I don't spar the best anyway, but then on fight night I rise sort of. Like I fight better than what I spar.
Yeah.
Just purely because of you rise for the occasion, you know what I mean? But I know some people who are the complete opposite, spar unbelievable, but then when they're under the bright lights, no
Just-
good. Yeah, you know, just they don't
It's
perform
exactly
at
the
all.
same in football. There's been a lot of footballers over the years who've had the thrown at them, and I've seen it on training grounds in the Premier League. Like, you've got some of the most amazing trainers, but then when they get on a pitch, they just can't put it together.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of players who are the other way around, and it
Yeah.
must be tricky to balance that one.
It is, and that's why like sometimes you can't now my coaches and stuff and my manager and that, they know me so well, they don't panic whenever I don't spar that well, because they know I fight
You'll
and that's
bring it
when you
up.
want to be doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
You don't want it the other way around.
there's no world titles won in sparring. Yeah, so like obviously, as I said, the main thing is the sparring, getting ready for the fight, and lots of punching, lots of pad work, and all that, working on your technique, and all that is a given. But just S&C and the running and that's just a part of the puzzle.
Yeah.
But the majority is the boxing.
Is the boxing. It's actually getting in and practicing.
100%. There's nothing like, as you know yourself, like.
One of the big things that our players go through, and you obviously go through a lot, because not only like have you got hundreds or thousands of people in the room, but you're on the cameras, people are watching this worldwide. When you're walking into that ring, I mean, I love your walk-ins, I love the music, but I actually get nervous for you as well, and I'm like, bloody hell, like I'm sitting here getting nervous for him, thinking God knows what Connor feels like. Have you got a way of channeling that? Do you get nervous? Is it a good nervous energy? Are you able to turn it into a positive energy? How do you deal with it?
Yeah, I believe it turned into a positive energy, because, like, the fighting is the fun part for me. Like, I love the fight nights. Like, the training, it's all right. I know you have to do it,
Yeah.
but, like, I definitely much prefer fighting than training, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, getting to the fight night, like, knowing, whenever I get to the fight night, like, knowing I've put in the work, you know, and that's where I get my confidence from, because I know I do train hard, you know, I know I put in the work, and that's where a lot of the confidence comes from. But just knowing that, right, we're here now. No injuries, no colds, no flus.
Yeah.
You know, all the hours and sacrifice that I've done comes down to this.
Yeah.
And that's why you see me when I'm coming out, I'm laughing, I'm like buzzing, I'm dancing, I'm singing to the music and getting the crowd and everything going. And that's what it's all about, you know?
Yeah.
And I do love that. And it definitely turned into a positive. And I think that's why I perform on the night as such, because like I'm not nervous. I'm not like, oh, well, what I know the work I've done, and I believe in my ability. And if I didn't think I'd beat the boy, I wouldn't be in the ring.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is.
Now, your ring walkout, I want you to tell everyone the song that you come out to, and also why you chose that song.
Yeah, well, I've had a few different ones. I came out to Working Class Man at the start. I think it was my coach, he used to walk out there. I came out to a few Irish songs, and then obviously I was headlining on St. Patrick's Day, that one that you were at. I came out, did a bit of an Irish song at the start, and then it burst into Run This Town because it really got the crowd going.
Yeah.
And I've kept that since, just because in Sydney the last time, there was a big Irish crowd in Sydney as well, and obviously I'm very proud to be Irish, and I'll never change, you know what I mean? So it's good. And I got to play on that Irish theme because everyone knows the fighting Irish, and everyone knows the Irish love a scrap, they love a beer. So, so I'll keep it going. But no, I'm looking forward to getting back. I love the Fortitude Music Hall where I'm fighting next. It is my favourite venue.
Yeah.
I've made it a bit of a home for myself now, and obviously with Finn McCool's, they're one of my sponsors as well, right across the road.
Yeah.
Everyone goes there before the fight.
Yeah.
We have the fight, and then go there after. That's where I have my after party. So it's unreal, and it's building and building all the time, and I'm sure you've seen on St. Patrick's Day what it was like. It was unbelievable.
I couldn't believe it that day. It was such a good day, like, to bring my two daughters out, and I've told them about many of the drunken St. Patrick days we were part of as kids growing up with my dad and my uncle and my granddad. And I've told you, like, my nan was from Ireland, from the south of Ireland, from a place called Kildare in Dublin. We've got a lot of Irish roots, and just for my girls to be part of that and put the green on and wear your colour and and it was such a good day and night. And then, you know, even going back in the pub in the evening, just for the atmosphere alone, like, it was phenomenal. Like, you just can't beat it.
Yeah, unbelievable. And again, I was supposed to fight last St. Patrick's Day, not the one just gone.
Yeah.
But the hand surgery ruled me out of it,
Yeah.
so I broke my hand that November and got the 7 screws and the bone from my hip,
Yeah.
and that was a setback. You know, I was so looking forward to fighting on St. Patrick's Day, and then it was pushed back until July just to give me a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't for missing. I wasn't for missing the one just gone. It was an unbelievable fight too, and because it was a bit of a war, and ended up knocking the guy out in the 6th round again. So, but I think if I hadn't really stopped the boy earlier in the 1st round, it wouldn't have been as good an event, you know.
Yeah.
The fight made it as well because it was a war and the crowd was so
it was crazy.
involved. It was good, you know, and then getting the knockout put the icing on the cake, you know. So it was good.
It was so good. Now, we speak to our athletes about sort of like pre-game rituals, and we spoke to them about last year about, like, as an example, Rafa Nadal in tennis. Everyone who's seen him, they think he's ADHD in a sense of the way, like, he turns his bottles and he twists his lids a certain way. But I know from my background, he's actually, what he's doing is he's focusing on processes and outcomes, and he's trying to put the outcome of the match away and just focus on one process at a time, and that's actual a visual reminder for him. It's like a trigger. Do you have any, like, pre-fight rituals to help you with any of that stuff, or anything maybe you're superstitious about, or for our athletes you could tell or share with?
Yeah, definitely. I am a very superstitious person, to be honest. I don't like to change much. I like to keep the same routine, as I said earlier in the podcast. But, like, so after I have the weigh-in and stuff, I start to refuel and rehydrate. I always go to an Italian restaurant.
Yeah.
Then the night before the fight, just like to carb up and pasta and stuff, and that's one thing I always do, but go to the same one all the time. Marinara at Clayfield, you probably know it.
Lovely.
Yeah, I go there, and then I get up. So on the day of the fight, I don't like lying about, you know, and the day drags, you're just sitting thinking about the fight. So I like to surround myself with, get out and go for a coffee and be around my mates, be around my missus, you know, and it takes your mind off the fight as such.
Yeah.
Because on a normal day or from sparring, I never lie in bed all day or rest, or your mind's just doing overtime. So I like to, it's just another day, you know, and then I'll go to the pool, jump in the pool, have a bit of a swim, bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
Feel good, and then actually train the day of the fight as well, because it just helps you settle the food. And I train twice a day anyway. I don't do a mad session where I'm absolutely gassed, but I do a good blowout. You just feel better, you know what you feel like after getting the body moving and stuff. And then I'll go home and have a bit of a feed, follow my plans from my dietitian and stuff, and then I head to the fight. But obviously I like to wear the same boxers and stuff at fighting. Just stuff like that, you know. It's just a real common thing, and same little prayer that I've always said since I was 11. Just at what my first boxing coach, he done this little prayer verse, and I've always said it before every fight, you know. Just simple stuff like that, but
just keeping to that routine again.
Keeping to that routine. get my training session all in, feel good, the food that I ate,
Yeah.
know what works well for me, what doesn't work well for me. So I've been around the game a long time. I've been boxing for almost 20 years and stuff, and you pick up things along the journey, along the way, and I got to use them to my
your
advantage.
Yeah. Now, roll on this fight, and let's imagine you get over the line with that fight and you put that one away. What's the next plans? Because you've already said you're ranked number 2 in the world. Who's in your sights? Who is it? Who do you want to fight, and where do you want to fight, and what's your dream?
Yeah, so like I've dreamt about being a world champion since I was a young boy, you know, and like been boxing for 20 years. As I say, this just didn't happen overnight. I have had a lot of ups and downs, you know, injuries and whatnot. So this fight in December, I'm definitely not overlooking my opponent. You know,
Yeah.
you can't at this level.
No.
Anything can happen. It's a
Yeah.
fight game, so it's very important for me. This can be a banana skin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I lose, it undoes all my good work. So
Yeah.
a lot of pressure on every fight now. Every
Yeah.
fight's like a world title fight, as I say. So I'm looking forward to getting in there and doing a good job. And I like the pressure. I like having that pressure on me, and it pushes me hard in training because I know if I lose here,
Yeah.
I slip up. So the main thing is to get a good win, and from then I'm looking forward to set myself up for a huge year next year.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're coming for that. We're not too far away from a world title shot. So
Do you think if you get this fight over the line, is the next fight a potential world title fight or not?
potentially it could be, you know,
Yeah.
depending on what happens with the belts and stuff. I think it's a little bit up in the air what's going to happen with if the boys are rematching or not. I think Bivol and Better Biev might be rematching in March, but
Yeah.
again, I leave that up to my management and promoters. That is their job, but
Yeah.
they've got my best interests at heart, and they know we're all pulling together the one way to get that world title shot. So
Yeah.
the main thing is for me to keep winning,
Yeah.
and if the next fight after this one is not a world title shot or whatever, and I just need to be fighting. Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
just
As
keep
such,
fighting.
I don't want to not fight from now until maybe next November or next
Yeah.
October. That's pointless, you know.
Yeah.
Main thing is to get a good win and then take it from there and see
Yeah.
see what's next. But that's the beauty of having a good team around you, you know.
Yeah. As a young boy growing up, is the one venue or one sort of like hotel or one stadium where you'd absolutely love to fight in?
I think with my experience of being with McGregor, you know, in Vegas, that T-Mobile Arena, it's a special stadium.
Unreal.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the walkout and stuff. I know the UFC events are mad and the fans are fanatics, you know, but
Yeah.
I'll never forget walking out with him. Obviously, I got to do his corner for the fight, or in the cage, and walking out. I'm not joking you, Ray. The ground was like vibrating.
Vibrating.
Like I've never experienced that before in my life, but it was just never the woman. She was like 3, 2, 1, walk, and like we start on the floor. I'm not messing. I've never ever in all my time, like I've been to some of the biggest boxing events ever, and I've never ever experienced anything like that. Conor McGregor.
What would that T-Mobile Arena hold in Vegas? Is it?
I'm not too sure, but even just the full week,
Yeah.
the buzz, the fight week,
Yeah.
and all. But
The
I thought that
whole
was
run up to-
unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
And then, but just that walk, I'll never forget her counting in and us walking out, and I was just like,
Yeah.
wow, this is not wise.
So obviously, I've seen on your posting, I've heard you speak about Conor McGregor before. So have you actually got in the ring with him and sparred with him, or have you done anything with him in the past?
Yeah, I have. I was actually his main sparring partner for the Nate Diaz fight.
Yeah.
As you know, I'm a tall southpaw,
Yeah.
left-handed. Obviously, that's the same as Diaz. So whenever he had the first loss,
Yeah.
like he was just sparring people in the gym and whatever.
Yeah.
But until you don't change anything until you have a loss, or
Yeah.
if it's not broke, don't fix it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So he had that loss, and similar to myself, he wanted to get the win back. So he put a plan in place, new strength coach, new conditioning coach, and brought in sparring partners specific and similar to Diaz.
Yeah.
And I was obviously one of them.
That's smart.
The fight was like a boxing fight, you know.
Yeah.
Stand up, I'm
Yeah.
tall, lanky, the same as Diaz, and that's what it was like. So
Yeah.
he brought me into Dublin to spar him, and then I sparred him once in Dublin, and then he ended up taking me to Vegas for the full 6 or 8 week camp, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Lived in Vegas with him for the full camp, and it was unbelievable. You know, the
Must have
people
been a
that
hell of a time.
oh, it was unreal. You know, the people that we met along the way. It was
Yeah.
but it made me hungry. You know, and
Yeah. You want that. Yeah.
that's where I want to
Yeah.
be. You know, and that's whenever I knew, like, McGregor started from nothing, you know, and
Yeah.
just with hard work and sacrifice, and he had plenty of ups and downs, and
Yeah.
and the main thing is the hard work and dedication he put in got him to where he was 100%, you know.
Yeah.
And like, we met Kanye West, Cristiano Ronaldo, we met everyone, you know.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Crazy, yeah, amazing. I remember growing up as a kid and always avidly loved. I always loved football, but boxing was always one that we were, you know, the Mike Tyson fights, the Frank Bruno fights. I remember seeing those big fights in Vegas. Going, be amazing to go to Vegas and watch a fight, but it's changed a bit now. The boxing world, a lot of it's going to Saudi. There's a lot
Yeah.
more money coming from that. So would that be something that you'd still be keen on as well if there was an opportunity to go into Saudi? And
Oh, for sure, yeah. Well, I just got back from Saudi. I was over there at the Bivol and Bitterbeer fight, and obviously Jayo Bataya was fighting, Sky Nicholson was fighting, 2 Aussies. So it's good to go along and support them and
yeah,
see what it's like. That was my first time in Saudi Arabia, but again, you know, it was good to get over there. People seeing the rankings and stuff, but it was good to get over there and do a bit of networking and
Yeah.
meet some people that did heaps of media and stuff. But to get over there, and it's about the relationship you have with them people, and that's how you get on them
Yeah.
big shows and stuff, you know,
Yeah.
as well.
yeah.
You know, you can keep winning and stuff, but if they don't sort of have that relationship with you, or
I think it's good for people to put your face to your name as well, isn't
exactly,
it? Put you out
exactly,
there.
that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And again, networking and seeing people, and I'm a bit like yourself, you know.
Yeah,
They love talking and meeting new people, and I think that's how we sort of get on, you know. And
yeah,
it was great. It was great to be there and be part of it, and again, that makes you hungrier
yeah.
to want to get there.
So thanks to you, you're not aware of this, but since we come to your last fight, and obviously I brought my youngest one, Paloma, we've watched Rocky 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 about 5 times over. She just does not shut up about it. Like
Yeah.
she's like, it's like Connor's fights, look, Dad, and
Yeah.
and then yeah, she was devastated when she watched Rocky 3 when he lost to Mr. T.
I must actually watch them back. I haven't watched them in a while yet. But whenever you do start getting into them, you want to just watch them all, isn't it?
But I'm using it as a bit of a psychology with her because she's done a lot of different sports over the years, where my eldest has just solely been tennis, and I'm trying to get into running a little bit just for a bit of fitness and just for health reasons. And it's funny that the night before, if she's watched Rocky, she'll get up and do a run the next day, no problem.
Yeah, just gives you the motivation.
The
isn't it?
motivation.
Yeah.
Guys, we're just going to go to our third and final ad break, but we'll be back with you in a couple of minutes. Thank you.
Hey everyone, we are coming around every major city in Australia over the next 12 months. We have got free objective football testing going on, guys. It's for boys and girls aged 10 all the way through to 18 years of age. The objective testing is quite simple. We'll put you through our 6 tests and it'll give you your results, physical, technical and tactical. And also, we're going to choose 16 winners to join us on an all expenses paid trip to Europe in 2024 and also 2025. Guys, what have you got to lose? Nothing. It's free to sign up. You get free objective testing and you'll get a free feedback, and maybe you'll be joining me at the Santiago Bernabeu in 2024 or 25.
Hey everyone, this is Raymond Woods at the Raymond Wood Podcast. We're back for our little final section with Connor Wallace. Now, Connor, we've been speaking about Saudi, Vegas, big fights, pre-fight rituals, your support system and your network. Obviously, forecasting a little bit further ahead. I know you're still only young and you're still in your career, but do you ever have any thoughts about like when it's all over and you finish boxing? One of the big things I'm saying this is that one of the things we discovered in football, and more so in men, it was really, really hard that men go through this lifestyle of living this, people see it as a luxurious life, and I know it's not. There's a lot of hard work that goes into being an athlete in any sport, but once that stops, sometimes unfortunately there's a lot of men who go into like depression and breakdowns and stuff. And what we discovered was in the football world is they don't really future plan ahead. Have you got anything in your head where you think, you know, are you just going to go complete family? Would you like to be a coach in boxing? Would you come out of boxing? Do you ever think about that stuff post-career?
Yeah, definitely. You know, obviously, boxing's been a massive part of my life, and even whenever I'm not boxing, I do enjoy a little bit of coaching and some of the charity programs. And I'm sure you've heard about the Fight for a Cause, or you know, the train for 10 weeks and fight at the end for those people for a good charity. You know, I get a lot out of that, and I do a little bit of PTing and stuff here and there. Not so much now, obviously, when I've got the big fights and that coming up, but did a lot of work with the NDIS and stuff. You know, the kids with learning disabilities. And whenever I first came to Australia, like I didn't I was PTing and, you know, basically working as well whenever I wasn't training, because like that's like taking classes and stuff, and
Yeah.
that's how I built up a lot of my my relationships and sponsors, and how people got to know me. Obviously, my fighting as well, but like you have to start somewhere. You know what I mean? Like I just didn't jump straight into the big fights, because you obviously have to work your way up. You know, and even still now, like I still take the Wednesday morning class in Fortitude boxing, and that's purely because, like, I'll never forget where I come from. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm never too good to give 45 minutes of my time
Yeah.
to that. Like I met a couple of my major sponsors through that class. You know what I mean? Or through them early morning class. And how hard is it to give 45 minutes of your time each week?
It's networking again, isn't it? Relationships.
100%,
We were literally talking about this. I was in the gym yesterday and I was sat in the sauna, and this guy literally got chatting, asked me what I'd done, and then all of a sudden there was a synergy between us and his business, and then we were on a call this morning, like connecting, and it's all
Definitely.
around helping kids and doing a good cause.
Like you'll never know who you're going to meet, or you know what I mean, or who can come into the class and stuff, you know. And like I'll never forget where I come from, you know what I mean. And that's one thing I think a lot of people who know me and from talking to me, I'm pretty sort of a humble sort of person. I don't like that shit talking or talking shit before a fight or disrespect. Like that's not the way I was reared, you know what I mean. And I've got a great relationship with all my sponsors. Like people just don't throw me money or whatever and say, oh yeah, that's good now. I'm not take. That's not how I operate and how I work, you know. I've got a great relationship with all my sponsors and stuff, and I think that's very important as well, you know. Like people will get sick of you, you know, if it's take, you know. How easy is, I think it's easier to be nice to people than to not be nice, you know.
It is. It's huge, and that's one of the things I wanted to finish on. Obviously, talk a little bit about your background. Obviously, we both grew up probably not too far away from each other, probably 15 minutes on a plane. Where did you grow up? I know where you're from, but just for our listeners listening, and what was your upbringing? You know, mum, dad, siblings, friends, family.
Yeah. Well, I was born in Newry, and just right on the border between the north and the south of Ireland. So an hour from Dublin and 45 from Belfast on the northern side. Like my mother and father, Brian and Serena, and my sister. I've got a brother and sister, one older sister and one younger brother, Neve, Ellen and Guy. My brother, they're actually all here as well. It's just my mum and dad are back at home. So now got a great life coming up, and obviously in primary school I went to St. Coleman's College then, but I've been boxing. I actually started boxing because I was getting bullied in primary school. That's why I started, and
wow,
I didn't think I'd be here today. You know, boxing. So it is what it is. You know, again, it's the sacrifices and stuff you make, and I'm a very competitive person. When you start winning, you get hungrier and hungrier. You know, and that's where it led me to. But I've had a great life, you know, and I think the backing of the parents is massive as well. You know, my parents wasn't taking me or pushing me on, I probably wouldn't be here today. So I owe a lot to them as well, and hopefully one day they'll be able to retire or whatever, and I'll be able to support them, or maybe they'll come out here, and it's good, you know. So again, all the work that we've put in comes down to this next fight. So
just one fight at a time.
One fight at a time. You know, you're only as good as your last performance, and that's why I never get too carried away. And like we just talked about, and doing the class and stuff in the gym, I'll never change, you know. And some people say, oh, you don't need to be in an class, or you don't need to be taking. I was like, nah. That's just me, you know what I mean. And
it's funny, like, to finish on, like, you know, they say it's a very stereotypical answer that a lot of football players get asked. Like Liverpool at the moment, my team, you know, they're top of the Premier League, top of the Champions League, and, you know, they're asking the players, you know, you're going to win the league this year, you're going to win the Champions League. But the players are grounded, and the coaching staff are grounded. Like, look, we're only a third of the season the way through. It's one game at a time, one training session at a time. And people think they're just saying that, and secretly in the background they're jumping around celebrating. But I know they're not, and it's like with you. You can't afford to do that. You can't think 2 fights ahead. You've got to think about just the next training session in front of you, which is going to get you to that fight.
Well, 100%, you know, and it's a combat sport, or it's a fight game we're in, you know, anything can happen. Caught or break your hand, and I know that myself, you know. Everything can be going well, and then bang, with the flick of a switch again. So you got to be ready for all that. So
we'll wish you the best of luck, mate. We're going to be there. We've got our staff Christmas party. It's going to be at the fight, and we're so excited to come and support you. And it's going to be super exciting. So it's at the Fortitude Music Hall in Brisbane, 11th December. What time's it kick off?
Yeah, it kicks off about 6 or 6:30, I would say.
6:30.
My fight's the main event, so it'll be the last fight. But it's a great. It's a stacked undercard as well. So every fight's going to be a great fight, and obviously for those that can make it, jump on my Instagram or whatever, and the link for the tickets is in my bio. And if you can't make it, tune in live on DAZN all over the world. So
yeah, we'll share it in the show link. So a big thank you, Conor, for joining us again.
No worries.
And hopefully the next time we have you on, we may be getting closer to that world title fight. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. That's what we want. But as we said, one fight at a time, and we got a job to do on the 11th of December, and we'll take it from there. Yep.
Amazing. Everyone, a big thank you for joining me at the Raymond Wood podcast. We're going to be back pretty quick. We've got 2 more podcasts coming up in the next 7 to 10 days. So big thank you for joining me and Conor. And I think everyone will be wishing Conor the best of luck. Again, in the show notes below, we'll put the link in if you're interested in coming out to Brisbane and supporting Conor, who's an Irish/Aussie. And we hope him all the best with his boxing. Thanks, everyone.
Welcome to the Raymond Wood podcast. My name's Nick Robinson. I'm the producer of the show. My business is Clearshot Digital. If you want to chat about podcasts, I'm your guy. However, today I thought we'd sit down with Ray because he's been talking to a lot of people and getting their story, but I wanted to take the opportunity to sit down because you've been very busy. There's a lot going on, and I wanted to take the opportunity to speak to you a little bit about the academy that you've got coming up. We've had a lot of comments and messages come through the socials and the website about what's going on. So, Ray, could you give us a bit of insight as to the academy and where we're up to in the process?
Yeah, so obviously it come from listening to the complaints departments of parents in Australia. Obviously, any sport you play is very expensive in Australia. As we all know, if you play football in Europe, where I'm from, football's free. You don't pay for it. So it's always been my vision through the business to try and raise enough money and revenues to try and get to a point where we can help people of Brisbane and of Australia to run a free academy. We're at that point now where we've got trials coming up in January for Brisbane, and they're going to be in December, I believe. And the idea is we are going to start Australia's first full free football academy in week 2 of term 1 in 2025. So we're going through the process of trying to get it out there. It's not just for the so-called elite players within their age group. It's for the whole host of players. It's for boys and girls. We've got 60 places for girls, 60 places for boys, and it's open to all levels and all ability levels. It's aimed at players between 8 and 16 years of age, and that's what we're trying to attract in. And we're offering roughly 10 players for boys and girls at each age group as we go through.
Is this the first time you've done something like this?
Well, we do a lot of our stuff like our objective testing, the pro player pathway, the football forum. It's all free to come. It doesn't cost anything. You can literally come and join us for any of our events, and you can leave at the end of the day and you don't have to spend $1. And that's always my way I like to operate. I like to showcase what we've got to offer. Obviously, with some of our programs, there is a cost involved if you want to work with me and with our team. But yeah, it's the first we've ever done a free academy that's going to be running full time.
And let's talk about the timing of this event, right? So you're looking at running something that starts in term 1 of the school year next year?
Yeah.
And how do people get involved?
So you can go to our website. We've got our links on socials, and you can even drop us an email to service@eurofootballstar.com. We'll send you an application. You can complete the application. Everyone is going to be welcome to come and trial with us. We do a series of tests and interviews to see if you're a fit for the academy, because also what we don't want is we don't want families signing up to it, coming along because it is free, and then not committing to it. We want to make sure the families who are coming with us are really committed to improving in the football and maybe want to kick on to that next level as well, and we want to help you with that.
Yeah, can you tell us a bit about what you hope that experience is going to be like for kids and parents?
Yeah, one of the big things that we've been conscious of, unfortunately, football and sports in general tends to be very political in the landscape in Australia. schools don't talk to academies don't talk to clubs, and the communication's really poor. We're trying to open up that communication. So what we're saying is, if you're part of a club, if you're part of another private academy, if you're part of a school, we embrace that. We want this to be a bolt-on on top of everything you're doing. If you want to be successful in any sport and anything in life, you need to practice lots and lots. So as a player, if you're 10 years of age, you should be doing about 11 hours a week of sport, of which 7 or 8 should be football. So for most players, they might play at a club, let's say, as an example, in Brisbane, you've got, say, Brisbane City. You could be part of their academy, and you train them 3 nights a week, and you're playing a game of a weekend. Now, for any boys and girls and families who've got aspirations of the son or daughter, maybe playing A-League or W League or Premier League one day, or in Europe, you need to do more. You cannot do 3 sessions a week and 1 game of a weekend and aspire to make it. So what we've done is we've added this on so players can come and join us. We're going to have 2 opportunities of a morning, 2 different mornings, 2 different afternoon sessions, and we're looking for a commitment of a player to commit to at least 2 sessions a week, 1 morning and 1 afternoon. It's going to top up those vital hours that they're not getting to make it potentially as a pro, and also to get a different perspective in coaching, because the curriculum that we're going to follow is the same curriculum that I worked on for many years in the Premier League, where we developed superstars like Jude Bellingham, Phil Foden, Lauren James, Trent Alexander-Arnold. There's many players I've worked with over the years. So it's going to give them that little bit of European flavour. And again, it's not to go against the clubs or current academies they're with, it's to complement what they're currently doing.
Yeah, that's really interesting here, because you've, throughout the other episodes that we've had and the presentations that we watched, one of the things you talk about often is the amount of football that kids should be playing. So essentially, are you talking about extra training? Are we talking about extra competition? Are we talking about extra touches? What do you, like, everything?
Yeah, it's extra training and extra touches. So one of the big things we learned when I worked in the Premier League, and I worked on a big, huge Premier League review back in 2010 all the way through to 2014, was the kids in England at the time weren't touching the ball enough, and the more repetition and the more consistent you get with your touches and the more you're on the ball, the better you get. Also, what we do is we do very heavily individualised sessions. So even though they're in a group setting with maybe 10 players in the squad, they will touch the ball 5,000 to 6,000 times within an hour or 90 minutes. And that's what we're looking to do, is increase all those individual touches of the ball. Once players are able to manipulate the ball and the more they touch it, naturally agility, balance, and that will all sort of come together, the coordination and then speed. So we call that the ABCs in England.
Can you help me understand a bit about the academy system in the UK? Are you trying to replicate it, or are you just trying to add to what Australia has to offer?
Yeah, I think to try and go to a full model like we've got in England, where you're an academy player at, say, Liverpool Football Club, and you're training 5 nights a week, 5 mornings, and you're playing a game of a week. And that's going to be very hard to replicate. So we understand that there's a paid model in Australia, and I get that. But what we're trying to do is, for all those families who are paying at clubs and other private academies, we want to try and offer something for free. So those guys who want to make it as a pro and kick on with the football, whether they be a girl or a boy, there's an opportunity to get this extra academy training for free, and they're going to be with the highest qualified coaches and arguably the best curriculum on the planet, because this curriculum is the same curriculum that produces Premier League stars every year.
Why are we going to the trouble? Like, you've created a successful program. We're putting players into Europe. Why are you going to the trouble of putting this together?
I'm trying to set an example. Like, one of the big things is that it really frustrates me that I've been here 18 years, and you've got, Football Federation Australia can quite easily, if I can do this as a one-man band and I'm able to set this academy up for free, I'm trying to set an example and try and put a stone in the water, so to speak, to create some waves, because I just find that, unfortunately, sometimes there's too many blockers or excuses. So I think by me setting an example as a one-man band who set the business up, Euro Football Star, we're now at the point where we're nearly at 20 members of staff, and we're now able to offer this free academy. If I can do it, then surely the federation or the state federations can start to look to do this. And I'm just trying to showcase and give them an example that it's possible. And I think my vision and my dream is, by the time I come to retire when I'm 65, 70, 75, I'm hoping that we don't have this problem anymore, that there is an opportunity, no matter your age or your financial situation, your son and daughter can go and play football. And For the ones who are talented and the ones who've worked at it to become talented, they shouldn't be paying $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a year. It should be free. It should be free, and it shouldn't stop you joining a sport. Finances shouldn't come into it.
Can I get a bit more information on the type of training you want to put forward? You mentioned you're going to follow the UK system, but what does that actually mean?
So one of the big things that we changed within England, we realised that we needed to follow a bit more of a plan and have a strategy. So we went right back down to the grassroots, and we identified there was what's called the four corner model. So it's identifying physical, technical, tactical and social elements of training. So you need to make sure you encompass those four corners into your session, into your game, or whatever it is you're preparing. Also, one of the big things that we've done in the UK, we created a course for coaches called the Youth Award modules. And it's actually recognising that players aged 8 to 11 need something different than players aged 12 to 15. So it's going through what we call a youth phase, which is players aged 8 all the way through to 18. So it's identifying that players are at different parts of growth and going through adolescence, and also they require different teachings, and the level and the sort of the technical aspect of it, what we're going to showcase and educate the kids with is just going to be second to none.
For those that have followed you in the pro player pathway, do you need to be part of this program, or are you going to force people to be part of this program?
Not necessarily, no. Like we've said to our families on the pro player pathway, look, if you're based in and around Brisbane, by all means come and apply. Obviously, because they're following a lot of our protocols and our pillars to our program, they definitely are going to have an advantage, but we are definitely not saying you need to be on our pro player pathway and paying us for that program to get the free academy. We will choose players based on ability levels, desire to be in the game, and basically the main thing is committing to the program. We don't want players coming, and this is the big thing, we are going to be charting, so it's going to be a minimum of 2 and a max of 4 sessions a week. Anyone who misses more than 2 sessions in a term will be pulled in for a meeting, and they will be removed from the program. Now obviously if people are sick or ill, we'll consider that, but yeah, we definitely don't want people who are signing up and then are not turning up to it.
How will being on a...
Well, it's the shortage in the hours. So there is a lot of players around the country who do club and private academy, but even then, sometimes it's still not enough hours. The theory that we discovered when we done the research in the Premier League, it's called +1, your age. So if you are 12 years of age, you should be doing 13 hours. If you're 16, you should be doing 17. It does peter out at 16, so 17 hours a week would be your max. But of that amount of hours you're meant to do based on your age +1, 70% is specific to your sport. So football, so if you're 9, you should be doing 10 hours a week. 7 hours of football, 3 hours are non-specific to the game, which would be running, swimming, bike, recovery walks, walking the dog. That's how you would manage your hours. And players are basically, and families are sort of uneducated to the point where they don't, they think by paying $4,000 a year in fees to the NPL or SAP that the son or daughter is going to be good enough, and they get a rude awakening when they go to Europe and they have an opportunity. So it's to fill that gap of missing hours.
So can you give me some specifics on the type of training and who will be running it, who will be taking care of the actual sessions?
Yeah. So that I'll go back a level. What we discovered in the Premier League was it wasn't necessarily about the level of the coach or the qualification the coach holds. It was more around the curriculum and the format of the session and setting the environment. Unfortunately, in Australia, we get a little bit carried away that, you know, I've heard parents say, oh, my son's coach is an A-licensed coach. It doesn't always mean your son's getting developed the best, and that's not a go with that particular coach. But what we discovered in England was setting the environment right and following a particular curriculum to guarantee success. You could have what we would consider as maybe a non-licensed coach who could deliver it because they've got the personality to connect with the kids and deliver that session. So the curriculum that we're going to follow is designed by me. I've worked on the world's biggest football project where the Premier League spent £1.6 billion, so just over $3 million. I'm going to design and fully set up the curriculum. The programme is going to be run by our head of football, but our coaches, again, are going to be more brought in based on things like personality and how they're going to connect with the players. And they're basically there to facilitate the session, not to necessarily give them words of wisdom like a Jose Mourinho or an Alex Ferguson. We want our curriculum to be followed, and if the players are consistent and they come in and follow our curriculum, they will 100% get better.
There's a lot in what you've described. How intense, how serious is it going to be? We're still talking about kids, right?
Yeah, so again, like we've got players coming in from the ages of about 9 and 10 upwards to 16. Obviously, we want it to be fun for them, but also there is a level of seriousness as well, because these are boys and girls who are already doing so much football and really want to push on and kick on with the football. So it's that balance again, and that's where the curriculum, the way we've designed it, it will give us that balance of fun, but also it's got to be serious as well. And what we mean by that is as well as turning up on time, not being late. It's no different than in England. If you're at a Premier League club and you're in an academy at, say, Manchester City, if your son or daughter's late once or twice within a couple of weeks and then you're missing too many sessions, you will be pulled in the office and you will be told there's another 1,000.
There's a fair bit in that, Ray. What are you hoping to... Where do you want to take this program? What's the plan?
The plan is hopefully we open up one of these in every major state of the country. So the idea is Brisbane for January 2025. Then the following January we're looking for Sydney. And then we're going to look for Melbourne and then also Perth as well. I mean, in an ideal world, maybe we could roll 2 a year, but we've got to just go in small steps. Then, you know, again, we're open to the likes of the Football Federation Australia, any of the state federations. If they want to come and have a look, they want to come and speak to us to see how we're doing it and how we're providing the funding for it. I'd love to share it all, because I would love more venues and more academies to be offering this as well.
Thanks for your time, mate. I think that there's a bunch of info in there for everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's still there, just about, you know. Getting old these days, so the memory, you know, to remember what's there.
The only one I ever learned was Mum and Dad used to take us every year to Spain religiously. That was our holiday every year.
Yeah, was a lot.
It was Cuatro Cerveza, por favor.
Yeah.
That's all I ever remembered learning, and I remember walking around saying that lots, and then someone saying to me, do you know you ordered them 4 beers every time?
Yeah, I was going to say, so your mum and dad took you there on holiday, but you're ordering 4 beers. Dad must have liked a beer.
He loved a few beers. So yeah, so it must have been a you know, a great upbringing, having that opportunity to travel and to get into Spain and to get into France and to be part of that, because that's like one of the things that we spoke about off air a little bit. But with our program, what we do is we've got this real niche program called the Pro Player Pathway, and I discovered the gap really that was missing, that you've got like kids who are lucky enough to be at academies. So like you know, you said you got your opportunity to go to Southampton, but unfortunately you got injured and that was the end of that.
Yeah, I don't think it was going too far anyway, but anyway.
Then you've got the other side is, you know, the kids who are in the academies then get picked up by agents and so on. But what about the kids who really want to make it and just don't know what to do to get there? And that's what we've done with this book and this program. And it's been game-changing, because one of my biggest 2 things that I've loved to do in life is I was never good enough to make it as a pro. And I always knew at 15 and 16 I was a million miles away a few of my mates. I mean, I'm growing up with like Steven Gerrard, Carragher, all these boys who you knew were training 8-9 times a week, and I was training once a week, because mum and dad were doing 70-hour week jobs, you know, minimum wage. They just couldn't get me to football.
Yeah.
So I devised the program to give kids an opportunity to teach them what it is you need to do to make it, the foundations, because we discovered that 70% of what you do outside the club actually makes up whether you're going to make it or not as a pro.
Right.
And we've done a lot of research at the Premier League into players like Beckham and why he was so good and why he made it, and it was a lot of the stuff they were doing externally from the clubs.
Yep.
And then the big thing, passion of man is like yourself, is travel. And this is one of the things that we've done with this program, is that for the players that go on and make it, they get to travel into Europe and the UK, which is a great thing for an Aussie or an American. But also, we also then have a plan B and a plan C. So if football doesn't work out, they could get a job in football with us and through us, whether it's a physio, a sports scientist or something like that, or they can just do normal academics and go down a normal route. So that's a little bit about my passion and the reason.
Yeah, I think that's incredible. I mean, the chance for any kid to go and experience a different culture, go and live in a different country is unrivaled. I mean, I think that's probably the best thing you could ever offer a kid.
Yeah.
And in that same vein, my wife and I are looking at moving to Spain potentially for a year before my daughter gets too old, because we'd like her to experience a different culture. And yeah, as I said, we were there recently, and she was, chatting to the waitresses and waiters, and it's just phenomenal to see it. It just brings, incredible joy to myself to see my daughter practicing Spanish in a restaurant, and we're doing a little bit of Spanish coaching with some of her classmates at the moment, and it's phenomenal. It's great to see, and so to your credit, to give children the opportunity to go overseas, it's something that I would encourage every parent to look at, and great if the football works out, fantastic, but worst case scenario, they've had a bit of a cultural difference and the chance to go and see a different country and
how old
see
are
how
your
other
little
countries.
ones?
I've only got one.
Just one?
Not crazy
How
enough
old
to
is
go
she?
for two. She's 7, going on 17.
Yeah, I've got one of them.
But she'll be 8 in October. So growing up far too fast.
Yeah. We very, very lucky ourselves through the job and through work. My eldest girl's a tennis player. She's 15 now. She goes to Spain probably 5 to 6 weeks every year, and we always go with her. And I love it. I love Spain, and it's definitely a place I think I could definitely set up for 3-4 months of the year, and just to embrace the language and not order 4 beers every time I go to the bar. Guys, we're just going to go to our next ad break before we come into our final section. Just enjoy this next ad break, and we'll be back with you in a few minutes.
Would you like to make it as a professional footballer? My friend Ray Wood has written this amazing book, The Pro Player Pathway, that gives you the secret to becoming a professional.
Everyone, this is Raymond Woods. We're just back for the final part with George. So we've been chatting a little bit about passion, we've been chatting about sport, we're speaking a little bit about George's backgrounds as well and growing up in England. And this all culminates to about opportunities for children, but also about fundraising and charities. So one of the big things that we've done for you, George, for the Barmies, we've recently just been on a tour to the USA, and we've got a signed John Barnes jersey. So not many of the younger ones will know who John Barnes is, but I'll hand that over to you.
Absolutely phenomenal. Thank you very much indeed. I can't thank you enough for that. May have to make a cheeky personal bid on that one. John Barnes was an absolute idol growing up.
Yeah, he was. We just done about 2 weeks in the USA, and John supported us. We had events in New York, Toronto, Chicago, Houston, and LA, and he was amazing. He was my idol growing up, as probably many other people's idols, but I grew up in Anfield. I grew up on a street called Priory Road. My mum owned the bottle shop there, and him and John Aldridge used to come in every day and used to purchase a bottle. It's so funny now when I think about it, a bottle of Perrier water, because they thought sparkling water was healthy in the 80s. So, yeah. And when he first moved to Liverpool, he ironically lived above a dentist in like in a private apartment. And no one was meant to know, but obviously in Liverpool within 24 hours, everyone knew John Barnes lived at this. So we used to just be sat there every afternoon, every night, and then roll on 25 years later, he's on a tour with me through the US.
That's unbelievably cool. Yeah.
Amazing guy, and we asked him to do a jersey for you, and I'm going to be catching up with him again in September, and he said genuinely from his heart as well, anything for the Brisbane Barmies, give us a yell, and if you need a video, a jersey, anything you need, let us know.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. On behalf of all of us, we're very, very grateful. That's
so hopefully, incredible. We'll only raise, maybe a few $100, but it all helps, I suppose. And as I said, we'll be in contact next week, because we want to really try and see if we can kick off the way you have a golf day. We want to see if we can do a football/soccer day and get all that pumping for you and get you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I'm ready to lace the boots up.
That'd be awesome. So for the rest of this year, just before we cap off and finish from this episode, what have you got on from a personal point of view, and also what have you got on from a Brisbane Barmy point of view? And you must be doing a lot of build-up work for next year.
Yeah, well, obviously next year will be massive. So on the Barmy's point of view, yeah, next year will be probably our biggest year yet. 2025, Ashes year. As I mentioned earlier, there'll be huge demand for Ashes tickets. We'll be doing our best to try and negotiate as big a portion as they'll give us. Cricket Australia don't love us. I mean, they do love us externally, but they don't love us in the sense that they don't want us all congregated together, because obviously the noise and the support, makes it feel like an away game even for the Aussies. So they tend to try and split us up, but I'll be pushing for as large a section as we can get our hands on. And in terms of charity, obviously every year we say that it's going to be bigger and better, and we'll be doing all we can to raise as much money for whichever charity we choose. And on a personal front, well, it's it's fairly personal, I guess. I've just gone through a cancer battle in the last 12 months, and just been given the all clear recently, actually, in the last couple of weeks. So that's great great for me and
That's
my family.
amazing news. Congratulations.
So I guess, thank you. Yeah. So I guess from a personal perspective, it's just back to work because I've been a bit of a lazy bugger for the last 12 months. I have to confess that I've probably down tools a little bit. So yeah, I'll be back to work and just trying to earn us a bit of money for the next 12 months before we decide what our next venture might look like. But yeah, so that's the next 12 months for us.
So from an exercise point of view, George, do you do much exercise-wise? You running?
You can probably tell for those that can see. No, we play five-a-side football on a Monday night. Just down at Nathan. There's some artificial pitches down there. Yeah. So we just rent a pitch on a Monday night. It's just 10 to 12 guys. We're all John Barnes wannabes. We're probably all from the John Barnes era. Every now and then we get a 19-year-old hotshot who turns up and dances around us. But yeah, it's really great actually because the level's quite good. We've got a couple of ex-pros play. There's a guy from Scotland who played in the Scottish First Division, and there's a couple of really decent players. But we're all, as I say, we're all just old and wanna be Messis. And we just did that on a Monday night for an hour. Yeah. And actually, yeah, it's really good fun. No ref.
Yeah.
Often don't need a ref really. We're all a group of mates, and yeah, it's just a bit of fun. So we do that on a Monday night, and that's about it. And the rest of the time, I'm kept busy coaching my daughter. My daughter plays in a under sevens girls football team, which is a challenge, as you might be able to relate to. Trying to keep 4 players on the pitch at one time is a challenge. They're all plaiting each other's hair.
What club does she play at?
Seeing their cousins across the park and running off in the middle of the match. Yeah, having a 7-8-year-old daughter, that keeps me definitely busy.
Keeps you fit.
Keeps me fit. I do a lot of coaching at the local school. The school that my daughter goes to, I coach on a Thursday and Friday morning. We do a sports program for the kids at New Farm State School, which is amazing. Which is good fun, and that keeps me fit as well because I tend to throw myself in and end up playing rather than reffing. So it's always good fun.
One question I've got to ask you before we finish. Actually, a mate of mine last week, we were chatting and I said, I've got you coming on. And he wants to know, and I couldn't tell him, but he said, who is it who wears the Queen Elizabeth mask at the Barmies? And then obviously it's now King Charles, I take it.
Yeah, so that
is it the same person? Or?
Yeah, it's the same person. Yeah, it's the same person. Yeah, so that is Andrew Hale, one of our main men. Slightly funny because he's I don't know, Andrew. I'm sorry that I get this wrong. He's got to be 6'6".
He's huge. I remember him at the Ashes.
So he's a 6'6", masculine, massive bloke. He looks great in a dress. Yeah. With his handbag and his corgi. The Prince Charles, or the King Charles, I should say, the King Charles outfit is maybe, it's a little more subdued because obviously it's not a 6'6" bloke in a dress. But yeah, no, he's been great, great fun. One of my greatest memories is the tradition is that every time the national anthem plays, he will go out and sort of salute the crowd. Yeah. And during the last Ashes, I was actually sat next to Evan, our fantastic trumpeter, and for about 4 or 5 minutes, I had him playing the national anthem non-stop. So the Queen had to keep going down, saluting everyone in 40 degrees, wearing a mask. He took the mask off and he just went, "Stop playing that." He was just, but it was great fun. It had hoots of laughter. The whole crowd was in hysterics watching that. So, yeah, no, Andy's a great bloke and he does a great job as the Queen, and he'll do a great job as the King for sure.
Fantastic. That's awesome. Thank you so much, George, for
My
joining
pleasure.
us.
Thanks very much.
We'd love to get you back on again in the future just to see how everything's going with the Barmies and see how fundraising's going. And obviously we'll be in touch off here as well to see. We'd love to help you. You'd be one of our main beneficiaries and help you raise.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Year.
Thanks again for the John Barnes shirt, and thanks for everything. That's really appreciated.
Cheers, George.
Cheers.
So guys, a big thank you for joining me and George. As I said, we'll be back again with another episode, probably closer to the Ashes next year with George, and we'll get some great updates. If anyone's interested to donate into that amazing charity that they're raising funds for, it's all in the show notes below. A big thank you from me at the Rainwood Podcast, and we'll see you on our next episode.
Hi everyone, this is Raymond Wood on the Raymond Wood Podcast. Now we're very, very excited to bring another episode, but also we're super excited to bring one of our players, Nathan Long, who's on our professional player pathway program with us. I believe, Nathan, you are with us. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all good.
Now, where are we speaking to you from, Nathan, for all of our listeners watching or listening?
Perth, Australia.
Here from Australia. Now, I believe you joined us on our programme, was it around about April this year? Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So you joined us on our professional player pathway. So what we're going to do is for the next 15, 20 minutes, we're going to walk through our listeners and mums and dads out there who are maybe already on the programme or who are considering joining the programme. And we're going to walk through some of the pillars of the programme and see some of the best bits that you're enjoying, maybe some of the bits you're not enjoying, all the extra effort you're having to put in. So Nathan, you joined us in Perth. You come along to our professional player pathway event and you signed up and registered as one of our new players. You got a scholarship to join us. What was the best bit for you about the event when you come out and first seen it? And what was the one thing that really excited you about the programme?
Well, I really enjoyed the objective testing. Like, it was like a good breakdown. And with the event, we actually got recommended by Liam Williams, and he's doing well now overseas. So, like, they recommended it to our family, and then they're like, yeah, definitely, like, sign up. Like, it's worth a shot. So,
yeah, it's a really good one, and I'm glad that you've actually mentioned Liam Williams. So Liam Williams is a player we found just over a year ago from Perth. Since being with us on our pro player pathway, Liam's now successfully moved across to the UK, and he signs with a professional club called Bolton Wanderers Football Club. So it's pretty cool. So you guys were obviously friends in Perth and you were playing together?
oh, yeah, and, like, family, friends as well. Like, go to events and that, whatever.
Now, obviously, we know Liam's a big Everton fan and he supports the blue side of Liverpool. I'm looking at your jersey. You're a little bit more south. You support Arsenal, like?
Yeah.
So who's your favourite player at Arsenal?
Odegaard.
Odegaard, very good. So we had a good summer this year with his national team. We are super excited. The Professional Player Pathway book is finally here. It's just launched. You can now purchase this book. If you want to learn what it takes to make it as a professional football player, if you've got a son or daughter who's aged between 7 and 8 all the way up to 23, this has got the 7 pillars and the 7 secrets on how to make it in the Premier League, in La Liga, in the top leagues around Europe. The project that I worked on, the Premier League and the FA, spent £1.6 billion to date on this project. It produced players like Lauren James of Chelsea, Jude Bellingham of Real Madrid, Trent Alexander-Arnold of Liverpool, and many, many more. Guys, if you want to make it as a pro, the Professional Player Pathway book is the book for you. Now, in regards to the Professional Player Pathway, you come along, you've signed up now. We got you on a part scholarship to join us on the programme. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the pillars of the programme. Now, one of the pillars that we do is something called our intolerance testing and DNA testing. Have you had your test done?
Yeah.
And what was, just to explain to the mums and dads out there and anyone who's listening, so our intolerance DNA test, we actually take a hair sample from our players, send it off to a laboratory, and it's the world's first individualised intolerance test. So it flags up any foods, drinks, products, home products that might be causing intolerances in your body, and it might create things like inflammation. So they're things that we want to ward against as a professional football player. What was your results like? What were some of the red things that come up, Nathan, on your test?
It was most like dairy products, and then Weetabix, which I used to have every morning. So we replaced that with porridge, and then chicken was a big one as well. So it's more like other meats now.
Wow, so you had to get rid of dairy products pretty much. I was the same when I had my test done, and it's not surprising that 80% of our people who get tested actually flag up not to have milk or dairy anymore, because it does actually cause an inflammation, not only in many parts of the body, but we've discovered it causes inflammation in the throat as well, which can affect your breathing, which is a big thing, actually. So was that a big shock for you, Nathan, having to get rid of dairy products, or was you not really into dairy products?
Oh, no, it's probably one of my favourite foods, like, definitely.
Now, the good thing is you can get retested again 6 or 12 months later, and some of those foods that you've removed out your diet, when you re-add them back in, it might actually go off your list. So the good news is we've actually seen players, especially, we've had chicken flag up, which is a really interesting one. About 60% of people get chicken. Now, what we've discovered is with chicken, and it might be good news for you because do you actually like to eat chicken?
Yeah.
Yeah. What we've discovered is there's a lot of chickens that are not organic that get a lot of hormones and salts and water pumped into them, obviously for the size and the weight, so they can sell them on and make more money on them. What we've discovered is in some of our players and athletes, they've actually started eating organic chicken again, but they've got retested. Chicken was gone off the list. They've re-added it in, and it's been fine. So that's something that we can look at doing. Once you've been with us for about 12 months, if you want to get retested again, we can get that arranged for you and get it booked in, and then we can have a look, and maybe chicken might come back onto your blacklist.
Yeah.
Now, was there anything on there that you was happy that you don't normally eat anyway, but it was on there that you can think of, and anything that you drink or don't drink?
More like nuts and stuff I don't really eat anyway, but yeah.
They come up on your results as well. Now, since you've got those test results, being really honest to all of our listeners, have you pretty much stuck to it, or is there certain things that you're still eating that you shouldn't, or?
No, not like most of it. Yeah, definitely. But like switch fully off all the red stuff.
Have you noticed any differences since you've done that? Like anything to do with like sleep or recovery or skin or hair?
Yeah, like skin's big one, I reckon, because my skin wasn't that great like a few months ago. And then sleeping as well, yeah. And then I feel like more energy maybe.
Yeah, like I mean, I'm looking at you and your skin looks phenomenal, and it's funny that I've been the same. I even I'm in my 40s, but I did have a lot of problems with like acne and that still.
Yeah.
And since I've done my test, I've removed everything. I was blown away of how good it was, and I wanted to get it done just purely to give it a go and get it tested to see what it was like. But it's been a game changer. Now, one of the other pillars on the program is match analysis. Now, have you had your match analysis done?
Yeah, it's a few weeks ago.
So again, for the mums and dads who are watching and listening in, and the other players who are maybe interested in joining the program, we do a match analysis. We get your game recorded, we send it off to Portugal, it gets analysed, it comes back. We then assign you a coach from England. Then they do a Zoom call with you for 1 hour, so very similar to what we're doing now. And then we draw out your objectives and the bits that we need to work on. So firstly, when you've done your match analysis, if you don't mind sharing it, who did you do it with?
Oh, it was the Tranmere Rovers, Matt Hunter.
Obviously, you did it with Matt Hunter from Tranmere Rovers, amazing. So for anyone who's watching in, Matt Hunter is not only a coach at Tranmere Rovers, which is a professional team from on the outskirts of Liverpool, but also Matt's a FA educator as well and coach educator. So talk to me when you've done your match analysis. What was your first thoughts of it? Do you think it was valuable? Was it not valuable?
Yeah, no, it's definitely valuable, yeah.
So can you remember when you'd done your match analysis with Matt and you went through your objectives? What was the 1 or 2 objectives that you had to start working on straight away? What was flagged up in your game?
Gain, not as much, but you said start gaining anyway, just get the foundation. But that wasn't a big concern though. But
what's the one area of your game that you think's got better since you've been doing your objectives? Is the one area that you think I've really got better at in the past couple of months since you started it?
Probably more so body positioning. Because normally I scan to my left because I play on the right. So, but checking both ways now instead.
That's good. And then within our system, for anyone again who's watching and listening and who doesn't understand our 7 pillars, the match objectives that get drawn out from the match analysis, we input them to our football plan, which is our web-based portal. So are you still on your first objective at the moment, Nathan, or have you moved on to your second? So you're still on your first objective?
Yeah.
And that's currently scanning at the moment?
Yeah.
And what percentage are you currently at with your achievement? Where are you at with it at the moment?
40s.
So you're in the 40s. So what percentage, again, just for our listeners, what percentage have you got to get to before you can move to your next one?
Is it 80?
85%?
Right.
Yeah. So obviously, that's a good starting point. Most players, when they do scanning, they'll maybe get 10 or 20% at most. but we need players to get to 85%. Once they get to 85%, we give that a big tick, and then we move them on to the second objective. So that's good that you're working through that. So that's obviously your DNA, your match analysis. Now, there's a couple of other pillars in there as well. One of the ones that we do want to talk about as well is the GPS tracker. So one of the pillars is the tracker. So have you found that being valuable, and have you been wearing it as much as possible?
Yeah, like I wear it like nearly every time actually.
That's great. And what's one of the things that you've noticed since you started wearing the tracker? Is it educating you in any way? Is it making you try harder? Is it making you work less?
No, like probably more motivating because you can like compare yourself with like academies like around your age as well.
That's really, really good. So one of the big things that we do, again, for the listeners listening in, is we get players to not only train in the GPS trackers, but they wear the trackers on game days. And we record things like the amount of sprints they do in a game, how many accelerations, how many decelerations, what distance they cover, how hard they're working in certain areas of the pitch. The good thing with this is for all of our players is that we know exactly where they're at in comparison to players in the UK and Europe. And we can have that meeting if we don't believe they're working hard enough, or if they need to be recording more sessions. So that is a really, really invaluable tool. And as Nathan's just alluded to, he's wearing it as much as possible, which is a great thing to see. Now, out of the 7 pillars, and I've got a feeling I know which one it is, but I'm going to ask you, which is your favourite pillar of the programme and why?
Probably the match analysis.
Yeah, it's the one that we get all the time, the match analysis, because I think it not only shows you in that one meeting that you do with the coach the areas you've got to get better at, but it's an invaluable tool because you get the recording and you can watch it back as many times as you can. So out of interest, how many times do you think you've watched it since you've done the meeting?
Like 3.
That's good. One of the things we do encourage the players is to keep watching it at least once a month, once a fortnight, just to keep going over the certain points and objectives that the coaches have spoke to them about. And it's a good way to assist with that. So one of the other pillars is obviously we take players on trials to the UK and to Europe. Now, just for all of our listeners, if you are pushing through your objectives and you get through at least 2 or more, or you're on track to complete 2 or more, by the time we're going on trials, you are eligible to come on the trials with us. And that's where we open up opportunities for pro scholarships. So every January, we always visit England, the Premier League, and we take players to academies and pro clubs for trials. In the June, July, we take players to Paris Saint-Germain in France, and also to Spain, to Barcelona. Now, Nathan, for our listeners out there, can you tell us if you are firstly being invited to join any trials? And if you were, have you accepted? And are you going on any next year?
Yeah, is it June and July? The PSG and is it Westpac or what?
Westpac with Barcelona and Spain, yeah. So you're going to be coming along for that. So you must be super excited and pumped for that opportunity.
Yeah.
Now, have you been to France and to Spain before?
Yeah, actually I have.
Yeah, and did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it's nice.
Would you like to make it as a professional footballer? My friend Ray Wood has written this amazing book, The Pro Player Pathway, that gives you the secret to becoming a professional.
So let's roll forward a year or two and you're going to sign and play professional football. Where would you choose to move and play for? Which team? Would it be a French team, a Spanish team, or would it be somewhere in England? What's your dream?
Probably back to Ireland, maybe.
To where, sorry?
Ireland.
To play in Ireland? Wow, I didn't think that one. So who would you like to go and play for in Ireland?
Like Shamrock Rovers, maybe.
Shamrock Rovers, amazing. So I've actually, many years ago, I done one of my UEFA qualifications with the FAI in Dublin. And we'd done a couple of visits and study visits to Shamrock Rovers. It's an amazing club, amazing people. And I believe one of the guys I was on the course with, he's still actually works at Shamrock Rovers. So maybe that's something we could open up for you as well in the next couple of months. So what we'll do is I'll have a chat with the guys at Shamrock and maybe see if we could squeeze that in at some point next year or the following year for you.
Yeah, thanks.
So, you know, you're going to be going on the trials in June and July, and we're obviously going to take you to PSG and to Waspac in Barcelona. What's probably one or two of the highlights that you're going to be looking forward to that trip? What's one of the key things you're looking forward to?
Like seeing different levels in Europe, like in comparison. And then, I don't know, it's a good experience, or like good thing to have on your record.
Yeah, it's going to be a good thing. It's going to show you the levels in Paris. It'll show you the levels in Barcelona. And then in comparison to England and to Ireland as well. So it's going to be super exciting. Now, what's one of the things that you really want to try and get better at yourself? So we know we've got scanning and you're working on NAFI objectives, but what's the one area in your game, Nathan, that you think you've really got to get better at and that you're going to try and work on over the next 12 months?
Probably my movement, like on and off the ball, like using double movement to get more time on the ball.
Amazing. And again, with that, you can keep an eye on that with your GPS tracker as well. Also, especially when you're monitoring your objectives. So when you're monitoring your objectives and you're doing your scanning, there's a couple of ways for players and mums and dads listening and wondering how we do this. So what we do is there's a couple of ways you can do it. Nathan could play in a game. He could have a friend, a mum or a dad helping him out. And they basically have a piece of paper, a pen. If he's working on scanning, every time the ball's coming into Nathan's vicinity, if he remembers to scan across both shoulders, that goes down as a big tick. If he doesn't scan at all, or he only scans on one shoulder, it goes down as a cross. And at the end of the game, if he gets 5 successful, 5 unsuccessful, he inputs that into the system and it gives him a success rate of 50%. The other way you can do it, you can get a recording of your game. And this is one of the things that we really encourage the players to do at least a couple of times a year, is watch 1 or 2 or more of the games back and actually record their score themselves by watching the game. So out of curiosity, Nathan, how are you recording your scanning at the moment?
Like watching back the videos, like, yeah.
That's
I know.
amazing.
Yeah, I know. Put in like 2 times speed is it does take a while to get through it.
Yeah, it does, and it is quite long process. However, what we discovered in the Premier League was when I worked at Leicester City, and they're a Category 1 academy, so they're a top-level academy in England. We discovered that by getting the players to watch the game back and watch for objectives, it was actually a good way to realise areas that they aren't doing well in the game, but areas that they were doing well in as well. So are you finding when you watch the game back, you're actually noticing things like you're not moving into spaces and you are getting a bit static?
Yeah.
It must be invaluable for your game that you don't necessarily have to hear that from the coach. You can actually see it yourself and you're aware that it's going on.
Yeah.
Now, in regards and into comparison, before you come to the pro player pathway and you joined us on the programme, do you think it's been a big help and a big advantage to being on the programme?
Yeah, definitely. Like, especially like knowing about like how much hours I need to get in a week. Like normally I wasn't doing much before, but like I'm really working the hours.
So how many hours a week are you currently doing at the moment, Nathan, just so our listeners can get an idea of what you've got to do?
There's 16 plus 1, so 17 hours.
And of those 17 hours, you're doing about 70% football, and then the rest is things like other sports, recovery. So within your 11 or 12 hours, obviously you're doing football. What you do outside of football for the other 4 to 5 hours? Can you explain to our listeners some of the things that you do?
Oh, I do a lot of running, like cross country, like maybe the gym in the morning, go to the gyms, or like swim, so like recovery wise.
That's amazing. And again, you've obviously noticed since you've upped your hours, you feel like your game's getting a lot better. You look forward to working with you over the next few years, Nathan, and hopefully maybe one day pulling on that jersey for Shamrock Rovers or maybe Arsenal.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing. Well, a big thank you, Nathan, for joining us. And a big thank you from me at the Raymond's World Podcast. Again, if you want more information, you can go to proplayerpathway.com, or you can go to eurofootballstar.com, or you can drop us an email to service@eurofootballstar.com. And all of our contact website links are in our show notes below. And we're going to wish Nathan the best of luck for the future. So big thank you from me and Nathan and everyone at the Raymond's World Podcast. Have a great day.
Hey everyone, this is Raymond Wood at the Raymond Wood Podcast. We've got a special edition. We've got a podcast with my friend John Barnes. We're going to be splitting this into 3 sections and 3 different parts. We're going to learn a little bit about John's life before he played football, and we're filming live in Chicago today. The second part is going to be coming from Houston, where we're going to talk about John's career at Liverpool, at Watford, and playing for England as well. And then the third part and the final part is going to be recorded in Los Angeles, which is going to be a phenomenal venue. And we're going to talk a little bit about what John's doing post-football, post his career as a coach and as a player, and what he's up to at the moment. So a big welcome to you, John, onto my podcast.
Sorry for being a bit sweaty, it's a bit hot.
It's been a really warm day today in Chicago. It's been about 30 degrees, and we actually got caught out sweating, running around as well. Now, John, we've obviously had you in our events over the past couple of days, and one of the interesting things that I discovered about you that I never knew was about your life in Jamaica and growing up in the background with your parents. So could you maybe start from the early days when you first started playing football as a junior? And I love the story about your dad and your dad's background.
Well, first of all, you said at the outset that is my life before football. There was no life before football. I started playing football when I was 3 years old.
Wow.
As all kids do.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously not even thinking about being a professional footballer, but growing up in Jamaica, like growing up anywhere, be it Australia, be it America, be it anywhere, Africa, anywhere you are, people play football. And that's what I did. Particularly, this was, I was born in 1963. So throughout as far back as I can remember, that was what I did. My father was a colonel in the army, and he came to Sandhurst, which is the officer training, British Army officer training, because of course Jamaica was a colony, and anybody from even Australia, when it was a colony, Africa, any country which was a British colony, if you wanted to be an army officer in your own country, you had to come to Sandhurst, because obviously, Jamaica was a colony. So he came to Sandhurst with Andrew Parker Bowles, was his best friend. That's Camilla's husband. Ex-husband, should I say, because of course Camilla is now married to the king. So he was at my mum and dad's wedding. They were classmates at Sandhurst. But my father, being a British Army officer, of course he's from Trinidad, but grew up in Jamaica as an Army officer, discipline was the most important thing. And my father understood that there are going to be hardships, coming from one of the colonies into a camp where you have Winston Churchill and the whole quintessential English gentleman used to go, and you're coming from Jamaica, and you had probably, you had officers from Ghana and from all over. So he knew he had to be disciplined, he had to be determined, he had to be stoic. He also had to show them that he's equally as good as them, if not better. So he volunteered for everything. So my father then became heavyweight boxing champion in Sandhurst, never boxed before.
Wow.
Played rugby for Sandhurst, never played rugby before, but he then became the fullback. So whatever, and he just volunteered for everything. He actually played football himself for Jamaica, as much as he's an army officer, not professionally, but being an army officer, he had a lot of discipline. So he played football for Jamaica. He then played squash for Jamaica. When he got older, my sister swam for Jamaica. She played squash for Jamaica. My other sister played tennis for Jamaica. So I think you can figure out that I came from a very sporting background. So growing up in Jamaica, sport was everything, but not just sport. It's about the discipline and the attitude necessary for you to be successful in sport.
A lot of people are always wondering why a lot of the athletes who come from Jamaica are so successful, and the obvious one is yourself. And then moving a little bit later on, Usain Bolt. Do you think it's down to discipline?
Well, of course. Never mind myself, who's a footballer, and talk about Usain Bolt. But before him, there's Asafa Powell, Don Quarry, Merle Notti. The Jamaican sprinters are much more successful than any Jamaican footballer, myself included.
Yeah.
Because, I came from Jamaica, but was brought up in England since I was 13 years old. But Jamaica always had, from the 70s, a lot of good sprinters.
Yeah.
Now, they're no different to black Americans.
Yeah.
Genetically, they're no different to, and there are many more, millions more black Americans. So how can Jamaica, a country of 2.5 million people, produce so many good sprinters? And you can see them in the Olympics throughout, and the girls as well. Shelly Ann Fraser, they have so many good sprinters because they have the support.
Yeah.
when I was growing up in Jamaica, and this is not just something new. When I grew up in Jamaica, if you could sprint, you were running in the National Stadium in front of 40,000 people at the age of 9 and 10.
That's crazy.
Because they supported it. Because obviously you don't need anything to be able to run, so you can sprint. But it is well supported and it's well funded and they're well trained. So I always say, if Africa had that funding and that support, then of course you'd have lots of black sprinters from Africa. There are hundreds of millions. But of course they don't. Whereas in Jamaica, it is a culture. And the culture starts from when you're young. And it's not just about your physical ability, it's about the training that you get, because Jamaica is not a rich country, so they don't, give you lots of money. But the interesting thing about that is from the 70s, a lot of the Jamaican athletes used to come up to American university when they're 16, 17, 18, go to American universities. Yes, they're running for Jamaica, but they came to America to be trained and to be developed. Since Usain Bolt's time, probably about 15 years ago, they started to not come to America. They started to train in Jamaica because they understood that the qualities necessary, the training, attitudes, and the food and the nutrition, and the information, you don't have to come to America to get that. You can get that anywhere. And I suppose if you talk about what you're doing in Australia and here, you don't need to go to Europe initially if you're young to be able to develop in the same way. So that is why the Jamaican sprinters, ever since the 70s and 80s, were always able to compete.
Yeah. Just touching on a little bit more as well with the whole DNA and the makeup. One of the studies and researches I done at Loughborough University when I was at Leicester, it was really interesting that we actually discovered that 82% of white Europeans have fast twitch fibers as well. And it was really crazy to read that. And then I was thinking, well, if there's a lot of white European backgrounds have got it, why aren't they doing so well in athletics? But then you look at Jonathan Edwards, who was the triple jumper.
Yeah.
His records will never be beat, I don't think.
No, absolutely. It's a cultural thing, because of course you have to go through it. And interestingly, it is not just from a racial perspective, because if you look at black East Africans to black West Africans, Jamaicans, Americans are West Africans. In the slave trade, that's where they came from to go to America and Jamaica and the New World in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
And they're genetically, as much as they have the same color, they're different to the East Africans.
Yeah.
So if you look at the East Africans, they're better long distance runners.
Yeah.
Ethiopians, Tanzanians, Kenyans, because as much as they're both black from a racial perspective, genetically, they're different.
Yeah.
So therefore you don't get many black Ethiopian sprinters and black Kenyan sprinters. And of course the Americans, the black Americans, are from West Africa, so therefore they're different body types. So genetics does play a big part in it. But once again, unless you're going to be able to put those genetics to good use in terms of not just the information in terms of how to train and what to eat, you also have to have an environment which encourages you to train, to do, because of course, from a genetics point of view, you don't have those genetics that you can just run. You have to then put the work in.
You've got to put the work in. And again, I think that all goes back to that discipline, doesn't it? And having that structure. So let's talk about, you said you were 3 years of age, you started kicking your first ball. Who was your first influence? Was it an uncle and aunt? Was it your dad? Was it mom? Was it cousins?
Absolutely my dad. Absolutely my father, because my father always, because he's very sporty. I mean, he's a colonel in the army, so first of all, discipline is important.
Yeah.
And secondly, from a sporting perspective, interestingly, I swam competitively from the age of 7. We used to swim in Miami. My sisters used to come and swim internationally, and I came to swim in Miami on the 10s when I was 9 years old from Jamaica in an international meet for my swim club, Marlin. But what used to happen when I got to, I've always played lots of sport, but we lived near the stadium pool in Jamaica. We used to walk to go to training every day, swimming practice every day. And every now and again I'll stop off to play football. And my dad said, if you're not going to take this seriously and not go to swimming practice every day, because you could always play football at other times, he said, stop swimming. So my dad always said, unless you're going to do it with authenticity in terms of putting the effort in. So he wanted me to go to training every day. And because every now and again I'd stop off and play football with my friends, he said, stop swimming.
Yeah.
So my dad always said, whatever you're going to do, you give it 100% commitment.
What was your stroke at swimming? Was the one
Breaststroke.
Breaststroke, and that was your preferred?
Yeah, breaststroke was what I did. My sister did IM, she did backstroke freestyle, butterfly. She did the individual medley. She was very good. And once again, because sport generally, or just not just sport, but in terms of education, you put your mind to it, you can do it. My sister then didn't take up squash till she was like 20. Yeah. And then at 25, she was playing squash for Jamaica. So and she was a good squash player, but she worked really hard. And my dad always said, whatever you're going to do, you have to work really hard at it.
So it sounds like from a young age you were doing a lot of sports. And what age was it when you started to really specialise into football, where you probably got rid of the most of the sports? Was it more in the teenage years?
I didn't really get rid of it because, of course, at school, I only went to a rugby school in England. I didn't play football at school. I played for a local football club. but I played rugby at school only. So then I played rugby for London schools. We had London school trials because I could run, so I'm playing rugby up until the age of 15. That's when I gave up. Because in Australia, you know, when you get to 15, 16, you get those big boys who want to really hurt you. I was a good runner, I could pass, I could move, but then all of a sudden in these trials, these boys were trying to kill me.
You get a few of
that's
those
not for me.
Kiwis coming after you.
I played for cricket. I played at Middlesex when I was, 13, 14.
Yeah.
So as much as I played football, because I wasn't concentrating on being a professional footballer, that's my favorite sport, so I loved it. But I played cricket because I loved it. I played rugby, I played table tennis, I played squash, I played all sports. And I didn't know I was going to be a professional footballer until I was 16 and a half, and I became one at 17. So I wasn't then thinking at 13, 14, 15, I'm not going to concentrate on other sports. I played sports because I loved playing sports, but football was always the easier and the more accessible sport.
Become more
if you know
natural.
what I mean,
It's really, you know this as well, it's very political and topical on early specialisation and doing a mix. And what we discovered in the Premier League and the English FA when we worked on this EPPP project, and it was through Loughborough Uni, we actually discovered that doing a multiple set of sports at a young age, all the way through up until teenage years, actually built up what was called a foundational base. And the foundational base was building up agility, balance, coordination, and speed. And we actually discovered as well something that was really, really interesting. To be able to create fast twitch fibres, you need to build up a base of slow twitch fibres first. And then on top, your fast twitch fibres grows and develops. So it's really interesting to see that you, within that case, sort of like doing all those foundations, you were doing a lot of different sports, swimming, you said you were doing rugby, and football wasn't really specialised until you were 16.
Yeah, but the thing about it is that because, of course, you look at the correlation and the crossover between sports as much as you don't think. Because, for example, for goalkeepers, you look at footwork. Now, if you look at the way tennis players play tennis, they never cross their legs when they run across. They move sideways, not as goalkeepers do.
Yeah.
So you have boxers.
Yeah.
So therefore,
Split step.
and as much as even when I did box as well, till they started to hit me too hard. I went to boxing training and I love boxing. I was a really good boxer, and I love training with my friends. I played at the YMCA, but every time there was a boxing event to box somebody you didn't know, I said, I'm not interested in that. But the footwork involved. So therefore, and this is not, now they're teaching you how to do it, and they're telling you that specifically this is what you do. But when you learn it by just doing it with a boxing coach, for example, I'm not thinking about my footwork for football, but it comes naturally. You don't cross your legs in football either. You move sideways. So all of these sports helps you in football because, of course, there are different dynamics, changing, angle, changing directions. I play a lot of squash where you got to come forward, you got to come back to the middle, you move sideways, you move in and out, you move. So of course, now in football, they teach you all of this specifically for football.
Yeah.
But a lot of other sports gives you an idea for football in terms of the movements that you have to make, subconsciously, without even thinking about it.
Without even thinking about it. So we move on a little bit as you get more into closer to your teens. At what age was it when you first had that first experience of going overseas and leaving Jamaica? Was it 12, 11?
Well, I was going, as I said, we're going to Miami. Jamaica's an hour from Miami, so I know family and lots of Jamaicans go up there. So I was going to Miami, very regularly, two times a year, 3 times a year. We swam there, played football in Miami when I was younger, because in Miami they've got a big Hispanic population, so they always played football. So even when I was young, I would go up and play football. But of course, I then came to England when I was 12, 13 years old, permanently. To emigrate. But before then, America, we didn't go anywhere else really, because our cousins in Miami, so we didn't really go around. So mainly from a swimming perspective, my sister swam in Colombia, they swam all over. So yeah, we were always well-traveled, but mainly just to America.
And just to finish on this little mini segment before we go to an ad break, but Miami and the football's getting huge then, I'm probably going to talk about David Beckham. He's doing a great thing as well for the game over in the USA. Do you actually know David fairly well? Have you met him?
I don't know if I met him, but I don't know him that well, but I have met him. But, like anything else, football has been around for a long time.
A long time.
As I said, it's 19... Born in 63, by the early 70s I was coming to Miami. A friend of mine was coaching in Miami back then, and I used to come even when I was 11 and 12 years old, playing Miami Classics against the teams from Miami, from Jamaica. So, as much as we're thinking that this is new, this has been around for a long time, it's much more professional, it's much more organized, it's better funded. But even back then, we were coming up to Miami to play football matches back then in the early 70s.
Yeah, we had Pele, didn't we go there? Was it in the 70s?
Of course, Pele came, Franz Beckenbauer, Johan Cruyff, they all came.
So we've had big superstars.
But then what you didn't have is that many local players playing. They brought the superstars over, whereas now you have loads of local players. The one thing I would say about that, though, is, and which could really help America to grow even more, is if they, stop viewing it as a middle-class sport.
Yeah.
If you get the athletes who are playing American football, baseball, basketball, the real athletes, and they play soccer, because of course the best athletes in England and wherever, I'm not talking about specific for boxing or sprinting, but just athletics generally, you know, everybody wants to play football, whereas here football seems to be either a middle class sport or a sport for immigrants in terms of whether you're Hispanic or you're from, you know, whereas the local American kids, it's only the middle class college kids who play football. If that changed, you really see America growing.
Amazing. A big thank you, John. We're going to go to our first ad break, but when we come back, we're going to do a little bit of magic. We're going to leave Chicago and we're going to skip all the way across to Houston, and we'll come back with our second part where we're going to talk about John's life, signing and playing professional football at Watford, moving on to Liverpool, and a little bit about England. Watch this space, listen to the advertisements, and we'll be back in a few minutes.
And it won't be as sweaty in Houston, although it's hotter.
Thanks, John, and thanks everyone for listening in. We are super excited. The Professional Player Pathway book is finally here. It's just launched. You can now purchase this book. If you want to learn what it takes to make it as a professional football player, if you've got a son or daughter who's aged between 7 and 8 all the way up to 23, this has got the 7 pillars and the 7 secrets on how to make it in the Premier League, in La Liga, in the top leagues around Europe. The project that I worked on, the Premier League and the FA, spent £1.6 billion to date on this project. It produced players like Lauren James of Chelsea, Jude Bellingham of Real Madrid, Trent Alexander-Arnold of Liverpool, and many, many more. Guys, if you want to make it as a pro, the Professional Player Pathway book is the book for you. Hi everyone, we're back from our ad break. It's the second part of the podcast with John Barnes. Now, thank you to Modern Technology. We've just come all the way from Chicago. We're now magically in Houston. Welcome back, John.
Thank you very much. Equally as hot, but not as sweaty.
Now, we're going to speak to John about his illustrious Liverpool career and how he first heard about getting the opportunity to sign for Liverpool. But obviously, you spoke to us about your career at Watford and then going into Liverpool. So if you can explain a little bit about the background and the amount of time that you spent at Watford, and then obviously when that first opportunity come to come for Liverpool.
Well, I was at Watford for 6 years, and this wasn't the first opportunity I had to leave Watford because, of course, I'd been there for 6 years. I'd been playing for England for 3-4 years before I even went to Liverpool. The goal against Brazil was when I was 20 years old, and I had another 3 years at Watford. So in between then, I'm sure that opportunities, AC Milan may have been interested in other clubs, but I stayed at Watford for 6 years. And Graham Taylor's the one who actually said to me, you are going to go to Liverpool. Because he said, that's the right club for you. The time is now right for you to go. You've done your apprenticeship, if you like, because now what happens in football is that the young player plays well for 1 year at a decent club, and then he costs £80 million and goes to a club and he sees inconsistency because he's not shown he's at a level of consistency over a period of time, which will then warrant you coming to a big club to know that you're going to hit the ground running, you're going to do well, and you're going to be consistent. Peter Beardsley was at Newcastle for 6 years. John Aldridge was away at Oxford and Newport for 6, 7, 8 years before he even came to Liverpool. So back then, clubs really did their homework on you to know, yes, you're a good player, but can you prove year in, year out that you can do this? And that's when Graham Taylor actually came to me and he said, Liverpool have come in for you and you're going to go to Liverpool. They came in January 1987 because then you could have gone at any time. There's no transfer window. But he said that, okay, you're going to go at the end of the season. You're not going to go to Liverpool now because... and he's right, and I still believe it, that mid-season is not a time for you to go to a club because you have to bed in new culture, new system, new teammates. You've got to get used to the tactics. So it's always good to go at the start of the season where you can have a good pre-season, physically, mentally, getting used to the players, getting used to the system, the tactics. So I then went to Liverpool at the beginning of '87. And Peter Beardsley came at the same time as me. About a week later, he was the most expensive player. So it was a bit of a change for Liverpool because Rushian had gone to Juventus, Kenny had retired. So it was really, me and Peter and John Aldridge really were to replace those two.
To try and replace them. So you went to Liverpool in '87? And that first pre-season, what was it like when you first hit the training grounds with joining all the new Liverpool players? And was you nervous? Was you confident? Was there any players who really stood out to you?
Well, as I said, I've been playing football for 6 years. I've been playing for England for 3 years. I've been playing in the England squad with Liverpool players. So I wasn't obviously apprehensive, but I wasn't nervous because I knew my preparation was such for the last 6 years that I was able to play. I was able to perform, and I played against Liverpool many times. So while there's a bit of apprehension, there wasn't any nerves. And obviously I felt that these Liverpool, but I know the Liverpool players. And individually, Rush and Dalglish, but they weren't there anymore. But the Liverpool team were still the best team. But which was amazing to me, because if you look at them individually, apart from obviously Russian Dalglish, the rest of them, the Ronnie Whelans and the Steve McMahons and the Stevie Nichols, Alan Hansen was special, but Jim Beglin, it was like, well, they're not superstar players. How come they're the best team in Europe? And it really was the Liverpool way.
Yeah.
And then I got into learning the Liverpool way, which came from Bill Shankly through to Bob Page to Joe Fagan to Kenny, and just learning about the Liverpool way. So therefore, as much as I was a better or more even senior player than a lot of Liverpool players in terms of my experience and the fact that I'm playing for England, I had to learn from them the Liverpool way. And that's what Liverpool did. They looked at players who they thought could fit into the Liverpool way. I came from Watford, which is a long ball team. So how can I play the way Liverpool played that from the back? But they saw something in me that I didn't even know I had in myself. Because that's what they do. They don't coach you, but they look at you and they watch you playing for your club and they say, you can fit into what we want without you even knowing it yourself. Because when you get to Liverpool, they don't coach you. You just have to absorb the Liverpool way by learning from what you see from the players who've been there before and done it.
I was born in 79, so around that 87, 88, I was like 9 and 10, and we used to spend a lot of time up at the stadium, down to Melwood, climbing that wall, getting past the barbed wire to watches. And then I remember like 10, 15 years later then becoming a coach myself, but thinking back that the glimpses of what we used to see, it didn't look like we were seeing a lot of coaching. It looked like a lot of small-sided stuff going on.
That's what it was. 6v6, 7v7, 8v8, depending on how many people turned up. But you learned, because that's what football is. Apart from, when you're shooting and crossing, or when you're defending and stopping crosses, you're playing in a middle third, whereby it's all about 8v8, keeping the ball, getting into certain positions to be able to deliver the final pass. And that's all we did. We did 5-a-side, didn't do any coaching. Which is really, that's why I'm glad I didn't go to Liverpool at maybe 17, because at 17, 16, 17, you have to be coached.
Yeah.
Whereas Liverpool didn't bring in young players and put them in the team, because they're not going to coach them. But buy players early to mid 20s who had the experience, and they saw that you could fit into what they wanted, so they didn't coach us at all. So it was amazing to me how, coming from a team like Watford, from the first week in pre-season doing what I did, it was like I'd played for them all my life, and it was like I'd never played this type of football before. How am I doing it? But they would have known in me that I could actually do it, and I think that they look at the intelligence in terms of how you play for your club, to use your initiative to work things out yourself, because that was Liverpool's mantra: work it out yourself.
I remember growing up, and Dad, he was an armchair supporter. He drove wagons all around the country, delivering to like supermarkets, but he even knew it was the Liverpool way. Pass and move, the Liverpool groove. That's like what we grew up with as fans, and it's exactly what you guys were doing, wasn't it?
Well, Ronnie Moran, that's what he said: pass and move, don't stand still, rotating in positions, So there are times when, I would go to left back, Stephen Nicol would come over, and then I knew how to play left back until we could get back into position. So rather than passing and standing still, it wasn't just passing and moving, but moving into a different position, and everybody had to do it. So therefore, the formation stayed the same, even if the personnel was different. So the rotation, where Peter Beardsley would drop off into midfield, Simon Mann might run, and Peter Beardsley would become that midfield player. So therefore, you always had the shape, and maybe the personnel changes, but the shape to continue to move, either offensively or defensively, when all of a sudden Peter Beardsley is the deepest lying midfield player, and he has to defend like Ronnie Whelan. But once again, this is something that you have to have the experience to know. You can't be a 16-year-old kid and understand that.
Yeah.
So that is why Liverpool didn't really have all of these youngsters coming through. They bought a lot of young players when they were 21, 22, and then they learned the Liverpool way, but they didn't have 16 and 17-year-old players going into the team.
It's really interesting, you said before as well about like not being coached. You shouldn't be coached at that top level. You just turn up and do your job. But it was one of the things that I wrote about in the book, in the professional player pathways, that we discovered at academy level. Coaching's important for youngsters. You've got to coach them skills, technique, tactics. But we discovered with the English FA and the Premier that we're probably over-coaching them too much. And it was really interesting that we went down the route of 2 sessions a week where we weren't able to coach. We just put them on the pitch, 4v4s, 5v5, 6v6s, and just gave them a basic condition. And I think we've realised, over the past 20 years that we probably were overcoaching them a little bit too much in England.
Yeah, well, they have to do both. Of course, they have to be coached at a young age, but they also have to be able to use their initiative to work certain things out, because everything that, from a coach's perspective, when you go out there, if it's not working, what I told you to do and what I told is going to happen as a coach, what you're going to do, you can't look to me and say, well, you said this wasn't going to happen. So Liverpool obviously took it to the nth degree, and maybe the English FA in the old days, were the opposite. But I think the balance is very important, because, as I said, when we played football, for example, and you would know as a coach, you'd have to put on, you'd have to then say to the players 2-touch for them to have 2-touch. At Liverpool, we never did.
No.
But we still had 2-touch. So I've been at clubs, and even for England, when you're having 80-sides and you're playing, then also the coach will go 2-touch, so you have 2 touches because you're forced to. Then he goes right free, and everybody starts to dribble. Yeah. In Liverpool, that was never the case. They still played 2-touch because that's the way you play. play until you get into, obviously, each penalty box. So this is something that you actually learn as you get older and you have to experience and go through. And because it was the Liverpool way, Liverpool never had to say two-touch, but they would, even, I remember some new players coming, and then all of a sudden Ronnie Moran would have a go at the players got having more than 2 touches. And they'd say, yeah, but you said it's free. We can, and you're free, but if you know the Liverpool way, free means 2 touch.
2 touch, yeah.
Until you don't have to do it anymore. Whereas it's the other way around.
Yeah.
Players will then take 2 touch when they have to, but when they don't have to, they dribble. Whereas in Liverpool, it was the other way around. You know, we take 2 touch all the time, and when we don't have to, but then when we have to, that's when we dribble.
Now, obviously, you had an illustrious career with Liverpool. You won many, many trophies. You were there for 10 years. Is there one final? Is there one league title win? Is there something that really sticks out in your memories that you think that was the most enjoyable?
Well, I think 2 things. The biggest lesson I learned when we won the first league championship in my first year, when we beat QPR 1-0, and I came and I expected a huge celebration. And Ronnie Moran had the winners' medals in a bag. He put them on the table. Didn't make a song and dance about it. He just said pre-season training July the 5th. Didn't make a song and dance about it because, of course, we won the league, but what is success? Success is the repetition of success by doing it again. And how do you keep that hunger to do it again? Is when you've done it, forget about it. So, obviously, that's easy philosophy to have when you're winning. What about when you're losing? And when we lost to Arsenal, last game of the season, came in, losers' medals in a bag, said pre-season training July the 5th. Because had we wallowed in self-pity and despair because we've lost the league in the last minute of the last game of the season, we'd never have raised ourselves to win it like we did the next year. So, when you win or when you lose, you give 100% effort, commitment, determination, authenticity in your efforts. And if you win, you win. If you lose, you lose. You know, there are a lot of people who say, well, it doesn't matter if you win. Of course, you want to win. But if you give 100% and you lose, there's nothing you can do about that. So I always learned that from the Rudyard Kipling spoke about triumph and disaster, a great poem talking about the way you treat those 2 imposters. You can't necessarily, you could play in a cup final and hit the post 20 times, play really well and lose, but you've given it all, so you can't do anything about that. So my whole 10-year period at Liverpool, from a league perspective, the good and the bad, is the most important thing for me. But the one moment I'd say is probably the FA Cup after Hillsborough, when we beat Everton, because it was fitting that it was a Merseyside Cup final, Liverpool versus Everton, because Evertonians would have lost loved ones in that as well, because, as you know, Liverpool is not a divided city geographically, religiously. Some people support Everton, some Liverpool neighbours, even brothers and sisters. So they would have been hard hit by Hillsborough as well. So it was fitting that it was a Liverpool-Everton Cup final. So those 2 games, well, the Cup final is probably the singular game. And the biggest lesson I learned was when we won the league for the first time and we lost the league against Arsenal.
That's brilliant. Now, obviously, you blessed to work with many, many coaches, and you were influenced by a lot of them that you worked with, but also, you know, you've mentioned and spoke about you were influenced by coaches who were at the club before you. Was the one coach in particular, or one thing that was said to you in your career that really stood out and that really influenced you?
Well, first of all, I think that, you know, when I came to Liverpool, and I've said it all along, I felt I played under Bill Shankly, because what Bill Shankly did, Bob Paisley continued, Joe Fagan continued, Kenny Dalglish continued, so Roy Evans. So it's just a continuation of Bill Shankly. Nothing was new. Nothing changed. I mean, when Graham Souness came, it kind of changed. Then football was changing. Then Houllier came and things changed. But up until that point, Liverpool was just Bill Shankly and what he did. And all the coaches were promoted from within, so therefore that continued. So, but the lessons he learned, Ronnie Moran was probably, because he had a hard time explaining it, because his delivery of his explanations weren't great. So you have to understand Ronnie, Pugsy. Just to give an example of the lessons that he taught us. For example, Jim Beglin played left back, and he said to Jim, for corners against, as a fullback, you go on the post, defending. So the corner came in and there was a goal, and he said to Jim Beglin, where were you, son? He said, I was on the post. He said, what are you doing there? He said, you told me to go there. And he said to him, yeah, but if I told you to jump in a fire, would you do that? Now, everybody laughs and thinks it's a stupid thing to say, and I suppose if you just take it at face value, it is. But what he's saying to Jim is that I've given an instruction to be on the post, but while you're on the post, if you see danger somewhere and use your initiative to know that that's more dangerous, and you leave the post, although I've told you to be there, they love it when you do that. They love it when you do that, because so many players get away with just being given instructions and just following it to the letter of the law. Meaning, if Jim was on the post and he knew 100% that they were going to score, but he's still going to stay on the post, and he stays on the post and they score, and the coach has a go at him, and Jim says, no, but you told me to go on the post, so you can't have a go at me. The Liverpool coaches wouldn't stand for that. They say, you use your initiative. So, you know, these are the lessons that you learn at Liverpool. More than any other club, they allow you to use your initiative, which is why they look at you for the years and they say, have you got that initiative? Do you have that experience to do that? Rather than us having to coach it into you. And there's so many good players who've come to Liverpool, and if you don't learn that Liverpool way, no matter how good you are, you won't make it.
Yeah. Now, one of the final ones I want to finish on before we go to our next break is obviously, you know, Shankly instilled a lot into the club. We obviously have gone through a bit of a period before Jurgen Klopp joined us where we weren't so successful again. I feel like Klopp sort of taught us a little bit about how to win again and brought that winning mentality back. Do you think there's a lot of talk, and I see it from a fan's point of view, you see a lot of negative talk about Klopp's gone, it's the end of the world, it's going to be another 5 years before we win a trophy? Or do you think it's not going to be that bad, and do you think Klopp's installed some of the winning culture back into the club, and do you think Arnie will bounce off that?
Absolutely. I mean, Bill Shankly, after Bill Shankly left, Bob Paisley took over, and he was infinitely more successful than Bill Shankly. It was easier for Bob because Bill Shankly started it, and it's always easier to start a revolution than to continue it. Yeah. Because starting is always difficult. So I still put him ahead of Bob Paisley in that respect, although Bob Paisley has won more trophies, infinitely more than him. Jurgen started something again, but it's going to be different now because obviously after Bill Shankly, everything continued the same. Promotion from within. It went to Bob Paisley, to Joe Fagan, to Kenny Dalglish, to the training methods, the staff, everything stayed the same. Things are going to change. Because Jurgen now, you know, the way that he had Liverpool in the last 9 years, if he was going to promote from within and it's going to be a student of Jurgen and things are going to be the same, the methods, then, you know, it will just continue. Whereas it's the unknown because it's going to be new, because Arne Slot is different to Jurgen. He's going to bring a new system, a new philosophy to the team. We're not going to be playing as heavy metal football, as dynamic as Jurgen. We're going to be more considered. Extra passes in midfield, probably play a bit more on possession, a little bit more quality in our deliveries rather than just, you know, getting forward up and down. You could look at the nature of the midfield players, they're more technical. But the quality of the players, and more importantly, the character of the players is good, which means that, you know, you've seen it in the past when Fergie left, when Arsene Wenger left, when Mourinho left Chelsea, that all of a sudden the players then dropped a level because the players responded to those managers, and a new manager coming in, they don't respond to because they know if we lose, the fans are going to not boo us, they're going to boo the players, whereas the Liverpool players are good characters. Yeah. And Jurgen has already started singing Arnie's name straight away, so I think that the characters that Liverpool have will be respectful enough to Arnie to then go, yes, we love Jurgen, remember him, but whatever you want us to do, we're going to do. So I've seen those signs on pre-season that they will give 100% effort to try and now make it the Arne Slot way.
Your opinion for the season ahead, do you think they've got enough to get that Champions League place again?
Oh, absolutely, to get a Champions League place. Yeah, I mean, you know, I think it's between, once again, the top three, Man City, Arsenal and Liverpool. I think Liverpool would be more consistent than we were last year. We had a lot of injuries and, you know, a few new players. So I think we'll be pushing, but I have no doubt we'll definitely be in the top four.
Amazing. Now, we're about to go to our next ad break, and through the magic of technology, we're going to magically fly all the way from Houston to LA. Once we pick up our final little section of this podcast, we're going to speak to John about post-playing, coaching, and then also what he's doing in television and currently what he's up to. Watch this ad break and we'll be back with you very soon.
Would you like to make it as a professional footballer? My friend Ray Wood has written this amazing book, The Pro Player Pathway, that gives you the secret to becoming a professional.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the final segment of this podcast with John Barnes. Now, we've been in 2 cities, and through the magic of technology, we've just travelled from Houston all the way to Los Angeles. John, welcome back. Safe travels from Houston.
Sweaty again.
Sweaty again. The temperature in the US at the moment, it's summertime here. It's been really, really hot. Now, we've spoke a little bit about your career before you made it as a pro. We've spoken a little bit about Watford, Liverpool and England. We want to talk a little bit now for our listeners out there who know you and who don't know you. What happens once you finished up at Charlton, I believe it was, and then how you did you decide to do your coaching badges, and was that something that you really aspired to do?
Well, of course, straight after I left Charlton, I became a coach. I'd just done my B badge, but of course, Kenny then phoned me, Kenny Dalglish, and said, would I like to come as head coach to Celtic? So while I didn't finish all my badges, the opportunity came, so I jumped at it, because of course I had been influenced by, first of all, Graham Taylor, in the way that he approached football in terms of his, and we spoke about it earlier, his ability to understand tactics, systems, player position, regardless of you as an individual. How do you interact with the team by understanding the direction that players have to go in a real coaching environment? Obviously from Liverpool, we didn't do any coaching, as you know, but so I kind of like married the both, because all my thoughts on football was understanding how you want your team to play and then getting players to fit into that system. Football at that time, this was 1999, it was just about getting the best players. So when I went to Celtic and tried to implement a style and a system that's, and then get to the players to understand each position has a requirement in relation to the other positions, football back then was about let's just get good players and go and play. So that didn't work out. Then I coached the Jamaica national team very successfully. We never lost one game. We had 13 games, won 11, drew 2. But politics in Caribbean football, as it was, meant that I didn't continue with that. But I've always loved coaching, and that's what I wanted to do. At the same time, I was also doing in the media. You know, I worked in Sky, I worked in ITV at the time in football. So I've been doing that a lot. And of course, in the last couple of years, I've been an ambassador for Liverpool. But before that, I was always doing a lot of work for Liverpool, not as a full-time ambassador, but now that's really what takes up most of my time, ambassadorial work for Liverpool.
When you said you'd done your B licence when you were at Charlton, but then obviously I take it you went on under your A licence eventually?
Well, no, I didn't, because by the time I was then coaching, and then I went to Celtic, then I went straight to Jamaica. So by the time that finished, I just went into the media, so I didn't continue in the coaching.
How did you find it, the transition from being one of the superstar players over that prior decade to all of a sudden then at the helm of like one of the biggest clubs? Was it an easy transition, or was it hard? Or?
Well, it was very hard because, of course, you know, first of all, I am not from Scotland, and of course the Celtic Rangers situation whereby they like their own, and of course Rangers were the better team at that particular time. They were spending lots of money and we weren't. So I actually had a fairly successful, I had quite a good win percentage at Celtic. My win percentage at Celtic was 65%. Steven Gerrard, who had a fantastic time at Rangers, his win percentage at Rangers was 63% over the 4 years. So once you have a perception as to what's failure and what's success, that didn't work out. But I didn't find the transition particularly hard because I've always thought about coaching and thought that way when I played football anyway, in terms of how the team performs. But unfortunately, when people have a misconception of you, then, you know, in many respects, you are beholden to other people rather than just yourself.
Now, obviously, we've got a lot of parents on our programmes who, a lot of them in Australia and the USA, are actual coaches and aspiring coaches. Was there a challenging moment that you can think back to when you was coaching, whether it be at Charlton or Celtic or Jamaica, and how did you overcome that challenge?
Well, challenging moments for me at Celtic, where you're playing with, or you're coaching and managing international players with big egos, is different to you're coaching an under-12 team in Australia.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure those under-12 kids will be much more receptive to their coaches than, you know, superstars at Celtic. So, of course, the challenge for me was the fact that I hadn't coached before, and I've just recently retired, and I'm at a huge club, and a lot of people felt, well, you shouldn't be here because you haven't been through the system, you haven't done any coaching before. So those were the challenges, the perception people had of me. And, of course, you see that now throughout Premier League football, because as I said, apart from Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola, and now Mikel Arteta, every manager has a challenge because the players seem to be more powerful than the managers. Yeah. So until that situation is going to be reversed, whereby the managers are now given the respect by the fans and the players, which happens more in England than other countries, it's always going to be difficult for managers.
So then rolling on to punditry work, you said that obviously I can remember, you know, you've worked on Sky, you've worked on ITV. Was that really enjoyable for you, and was that something that you really embraced, or is it a really difficult role? What's it like being on the TV?
That's an easy role.
It's an easy
role because all you have to do is talk about what you see, talk about football, and what you do as a pundit is you always, after the event, say what should have been done. Yeah. As a coach, you've got to say all of that before. Yeah. Because of course, as a pundit, you look at a game, he's in a bad position, it's a wrong goal, mistimed tackle, whatever, bad position. After, you can say that because you can see it. If you understand football, it's easy to do that. Yeah. Whereas from a coaching perspective, you have to do all of that before the game and let people know what they have to do. So I found punditry very easy, and I still do. But I would still love to coach because that's what we want to do. But punditry is a way of keeping involved in football. But no, it's not a difficult thing at all.
With the punditry, one of the questions I really want to ask you, and this is a personal one for me, are they telling you what you can and can't say? And also, the second end of that question as well, is it really tricky that, you know, you find yourself you can't be too biased to, like, say, Watford or Liverpool because they're your ex-clubs? Or do they tell you can't be too biased towards them? How does that work?
No, they don't tell you. You have to be who you are. And I think that if you're constructive in your criticism, as much as I'm an ambassador for Liverpool and Liverpool's my club, I will be honest about it. Yeah. But unfortunately, what happens, a lot of pundits, they get carried away one way or the other. So I would never, ever go and criticize a player for being in a bad position or missing an open goal, because I've been there, I've missed an open goal. Yeah. So, of course, you can then say you should concentrate more, get your head over the ball. But you have pundits going, oh, you should never do that because it's a disgrace, because he's missed an open goal, and that should never happen because you're a professional, you know. So therefore, and unfortunately, they're the pundits who actually make it, the ones who are overly critical. So I think you can be constructive in your criticism if you're honest. Yeah. And as I said, I've missed open goals. I know how easy it is to miss an open goal. So I would never ever go and say you should never miss an open goal.
Yeah. And going back to coaching, obviously you just touched on maybe the potential of going into coaching again. And are you doing anything more with your coaching badges or education and learning at the moment, or?
Well, I haven't got time. I've got 7 children. I'm walking around, I'm working, I'm doing all kinds. No, so at that moment in time, while I'm still doing what I'm doing, that has to take a back seat.
But coaching role potentially could still be on the cards in the future if the right opportunity comes.
If an opportunity comes, an opportunity doesn't come by very often.
Yeah.
And there are many reasons for that, which if I have an hour in the podcast, I can tell you. But of course, yes. So of course, I'm still on the lookout. But of course, they are few and far between.
So we're just talking about obviously going into coaching and that, and obviously you're still very relatively young. There's a lot of coaches, like a Carlo Ancelotti's getting closer to 80 now, and he's still going really, really well. Is that obviously something that you think maybe as your life maybe gets a bit quieter and as the kids get older, it could be something that you really pursue?
Well, of course, once again, it depends on the opportunity. But of course, Carlo Ancelotti may be getting older, but he has been in it for the last 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
It's going to be relatively new for me because I coached in 1999 and then coached Jamaica in 2007, Tranmere in 2009. So it's been 14, 15, 16 years.
Yeah.
Whereas Carlos continued throughout. So it's difficult for me now at my age. But of course, you can never say never.
Now, one of the big things to finish on before we finish the podcast, we always get our players in the room and parents as well to write down the one big scary goal for the next 5 to 10 years. Have you got a big scary goal that you'd like to achieve or do? Is it whether it be something to do with your family or something on a personal level with work or business? Is there anything that you've got planned for the future?
Well, at my age now, there are no scary goals ahead. The scary goal ahead is just to try and stay healthy.
John, a big thank you. It's been amazing. We're so blessed to have you with us on this tour in the USA and Canada. And I know not just Liverpool fans, but football fans around the world are going to cherish this podcast. And a big thank you for me and the guys at Euro Football Star.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, this is Raymond Wood at the Raymond Wood Podcast. We're excited to be back with another podcast. Now, over the past couple of weeks, we've had ex-famous football players, coaches, and also from time to time, we bring on players who are currently on our professional player pathway program. Now, we've got a player online with us this evening. I'm going to introduce you to a young gentleman who's a fantastic football player, has got a lot of potential to go really far with his career. We've got Lockie Olsen with us. How are you, Lockie?
Good, thanks, Ray. Yourself?
Yeah, very good, very good. So thank you for joining us. So we're bringing you onto the podcast because we've got some exciting news that we want to announce and share with the world, everyone who follows us on our socials, and also a little bit of an update on you and your program. So before we get into it, I think we'll start straight off the bat. When did you first join us on the program?
It was towards the end of last year. So around October of 2023.
October 2023. Where was the event that you come in for the Pro Player Pathway? Can you remember where it was?
My dad went to it. I think it was in Sydney.
In Sydney, amazing. And you are currently based, where are you based at the moment? Where do you live?
So I'm on the Central Coast. It's kind of in between Sydney and Newcastle.
Sydney and Newcastle. So for all of our listeners who are aware of our program, the Pro Player Pathway, we run events globally all around the world, and we offer scholarships to players to come and join us to work on our full-time program, which has got 7 pillars attached to it. And then the idea is to try and get players opportunities overseas to the UK and to Europe. So you've been with us for just over 6 months, and there's 7 pillars to the program. Can you explain to the listeners watching and listening in what's your favourite pillar of the programme, and why is it your favourite pillar?
I would say the opportunity to trial overseas.
The trial's the big one.
Yeah, for sure. It's just an amazing opportunity. It's quite crazy to me how something like that can happen just for anyone, really.
Yeah, it's one of the big things that we've decided when we set up. We've seen there was a lot of problems, not just in Australia, but also in the USA and Canada, where there's a lot of trial opportunities getting put forward for players, and it costs a lot of money, but there's no preparation to prepare the players. And that's one of the big things that we spotted, that we could do a lot of the work with yourself and with the players and get you prepared, ready. So then when you go over for opportunities, you stand a way better chance of being successful. So obviously you had Dad who was part of getting you signed up to the programme, and it must have been a dream come true when you first heard about the programme that there was this opportunity to not only work full-time with myself and with some of the professional coaches, but also to get that once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to not only get a trial, but to be guaranteed a scholarship as well.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, the support that you guys give the players leading up to the trial is just super important. And I think it'll definitely aid my success in the future.
Will, most definitely. Now, Lockie, let's talk football. Who's your favourite football team?
Manchester United.
Oh, we won't hold that against you. That's all right. So Manchester United are going really well in the summer. They've got quite a few signings already over the line. Is there anyone that you really particularly looking forward to watching in the new season?
I think the youngster Kobe Manu has come up through the academy. I think he's a very good player here.
Yeah, he has a very good summer as well with England in the Euros as well, and nearly won the Euros with England. They just missed out on that final game against Spain. But yeah, I think he's going to be a pivotal player, I think, for Manchester United in the new season. So what age were you, Lockie, when you first started playing football? What's your first memory of playing football? Can you remember how old you was roughly?
Would have been 3 or 4 maybe years old, just in the backyard, kicking a ball around with my dad.
Just you and Dad having a kick, and that's how it normally starts, doesn't it? What age do you think you can remember when you're thinking, I'd actually really like to play professional football? Do you remember when you first maybe thought of that?
That's always been my dream, to be a professional footballer, but I think around the under 11 or under 12 age group, I really started to desire that for myself when I'm older, and yeah.
Now, obviously, once you started to think like that when you were 10 and 11, obviously, before you got on this program, did you seem like it was a pretty hard task to achieve to become a professional player, or did you think it was going to be relatively easy? What was your thought before you come on the program?
So yeah, before I came on the program, it definitely looked like it was going to be a road of lots of hard work, and the chances just say it's not going to happen that often for a lot of young kids who are just working hard in their backyard and whatnot. So yeah, I was prepared to do whatever it takes, but I knew it was going to be hard.
Yeah, any road's hard. It doesn't matter what you're trying to achieve. But one of the things that we recognise as well, not just in Australia, but in places like the USA, Canada, the Middle East, is that there isn't that direct pathway for football. Like when you live in the UK or Europe, you can definitely see there's a pathway. There's definitely a route you can follow and to get into the system. But it is a lot harder. And that was one of the things that used to upset me living in Australia for 18 years on and off, was that there wasn't a real opportunity for you boys and girls in Australia to even understand how to make the first step to make it as a professional. Now, if we talk a little bit about re-roll on, how old are you now? You are
15. So I'm 15 in November.
So 16 in November. So if rolling on from 10 and 11, 5 or 6 years later, you're now on the programme. You've been on the programme now. For those boys and girls and mums and dads who are listening to the podcast and don't know anything about our programme, one of the first touch points that we do with all the players is a match analysis. Now, I take it you've done your match analysis?
No, actually. We haven't been able to get footage, but I was actually going to get Mum to film my game this weekend. So
amazing. Well, that's exciting, because for those who are listening in, the beauty about getting the match analysis completed is that we draw out those objectives for you, and we can start to push it in that right direction. So that must be exciting, knowing that you are about to get your match analysis completed and you've got to get your video submitted. So is it going to be an up-and-coming game that you're going to get recorded in the next couple of weeks, is it?
It would definitely. I have one this Saturday where it's a home game, so my mum will be there for the whole match. And I have around just a few more games in my season. Since I play for my school, our season's a little shorter, but I'll definitely be able to film a few games, which is super exciting.
That's going to be good. And then we'll get you connected with one of our professional coaches and get that match analysis completed. That's one of the key areas that we need to get done. So once you've got your objectives, you can start working on them and preparing for your trial opportunity next January. Now, in relation to some of the other pillars, one of the other pillars is obviously the GPS tracker. Have you been wearing the tracker for training and games over the past couple of months?
Yeah. For I think since pre-season in January, I've been wearing it, and it's just so useful. I think it's essential for footballers because really you can track things like heart rate, how far you run in a game, how fast you run in a game. So it's definitely good for improvement in your game, and yeah.
That's amazing. It's another big key one that we introduced into Europe and into the Premier League probably about 15, 20 years ago when the first GPS trackers come around. And one of the big problems we had was, like with anything, it was very, very expensive to get the kit and equipment. But now with the prices coming down, it was an essential part to our program to get added in. And as you just alluded to, for all of our listeners listening in, the reason why we have the GPS tracker is not only does it record, as Lockie just mentioned, distance run, acceleration, deceleration, how many sprints you do in a session. It allows us to actually compare our players with players against who are playing in Europe and the UK, because we've got all the stats and data from those players across there. And it allows us to show you that where our players are maybe in Australia or the USA, wherever they're based, against the players in Europe. So we know where we need to bring it up. So you've been using that since January. That's amazing. And you're pretty much using it for as many sessions a week as you can.
Yeah.
What's one of the big things that you think you've learned from the GPS tracker? Is it taught you anything in particular?
Yes, actually, when the stats on the GPS tracker were like maybe better than in comparison to another session, I could definitely see that the session with the greatest stats was a better session, and I played better in that session. So, for example, distance ran in a session, since I'm a midfielder, that's maybe one of the most important ones in my game. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's good. And have you noticed over since January that you're progressively getting better with some of your stats and that? You're keeping an eye on like your sprints and your distance covered?
Yeah, it's been slow. For the first few months, it was kind of just the same. But then I did start to focus on improving those stats, and they're just getting better and better each week.
Now, before we talk about the trials and going to the UK and what you're looking forward to the most, one of the other pillars is our intolerance and DNA test. Have you had our test completed yet, or are you still waiting for that to be completed?
No, I've got the results back from the test, yeah.
Amazing. So just again, for our listeners listening in, one of the pillars out of the 7 pillars is our DNA and intolerance testing. And the reason why we use this is to try and reduce the amount of inflammation that goes on in players' bodies, and also to make sure that the digestive system is not spending too much time digesting food and drink that it doesn't want to digest because it's not tolerable for that particular body. So it's an individual test. So Lockie, to walk through for no one who's ever seen one of these tests, what did you have to do to get your test results? How was it tested?
So first I had to snip off a few inches of my hair, and then I'd put it in a Ziploc bag, and I would mail it over to an intolerance testing company in Queensland or something, and they'd do the test and they'd just send me the results back, and yeah.
Amazing. So how long did that take from when you cut your hair to getting your results back? Was it a few months or a few weeks, or?
I think it was around 4 or 5 weeks before I got the results back.
That's not too long. And obviously when you got the results back, were you excited to see what you could and couldn't eat? And what was the anticipation like when you got the results back?
Yeah, I definitely thought it'd be interesting. And I was actually super surprised with some of the foods that I used to eat daily. Turns out they were not good for me at all. And yeah, I've started eating substitute foods instead of those each day. So yeah.
Amazing. So for everyone again listening in, with the DNA and intolerance test, it flags a report back to all the players and individual reports based off the DNA sample from the hair. And in black is everything that they can eat and drink, and then it flags up any items in red. And the advice from that test result is to give that particular type of food or drink a bit of a rest for 6 months. What was some of the things in there that were flagged up against you that you normally would eat, but it told you that it didn't want you to eat?
Yeah, so there was things like cow's milk, chocolate. There was some types of pasta that I couldn't eat, and they were the main ones. Yeah.
Is there anything in particular on there that really upset you, that you were like, damn, I can't believe I've got to have a break from that? Was there anything that you really miss?
It's definitely the chocolate and milk, definitely.
I was the same when I got my test done. I don't know if you remember from the presentation, but I think it was Cadbury's, chocolate, milk, cheese, bread. It was all completely wiped off my schedule as well. Now, I know from my personal point of view, when I got my test done, because when we first considered to bring this on board for the players, I wanted to test it to see how good it was and if it made a difference. And I'll be honest, since I've started following my results, like things I'm not allowed to eat as chocolate, eggs, cheese, bacon, I've removed all of these items from my day-to-day life 99% of the time. And I've noticed like not only like weight loss, and it wasn't done for weight loss, it was done just to give it a try, but weight loss, skin, nails are growing really long all the time. Have you noticed anything since you made the changes that was for the benefit?
Yeah, so before I got the test done, I had like some like brain fog, you could say. And, 3 months later or 4 or 5 months later, it's all gone now. And yeah, I think super clear. And that would definitely help on the football pitch. So
yeah, it was a big one when we first discovered it, and they started introducing these tests in the Premier League. And with some of the top teams around Europe, was that they found it got rid of headaches, migraines, brain fog, congestion in the throat, because there's a lot of congestion and phlegm that gets built up from particular foods like milk and dairy products particularly. But what was really interesting as well is that about 70% of our players actually flag up for chicken as well. So they've got to take chicken out the diet. Is chicken okay on your foods or?
Yeah, chicken was fine. There were no meats that were bad for me. It was mainly just like dairy, and yeah, it was mainly dairy, to be honest.
That's amazing. So that's another big one, I suppose, for you in your journey, that maybe this time 9 months ago, you didn't have the GPS tracker, you didn't have your objectives, which you're going to do for your match analysis, but also you wasn't even aware that like this was causing a bit of a brain fog in regards to your nutrition. So you must feel like in a better position now that it is possible to make it and play professional football. Now you are actually training daily like a professional football player.
Yeah, it's just totally different. I would never have expected to feel like how I'm feeling right now, like 9-10 months ago. It's just great, really.
I'm super excited for you to get your match analysis done, so we're really looking forward to see that happen in the next couple of weeks. And we'll get you linked up with one of our coaches. So again, for mums and dads and players listening into the podcast, one of the pillars of the program, we actually get a match analysis completed. It goes off to Portugal. We get our top analysts in Portugal to analyse the game. And these analysts actually do match analysis for clubs like Manchester City, Manchester United, Liverpool, Real Madrid, all the big clubs in Europe. We get an individual match analysis completed for our players. It then gets sent back to us. We then over-analyse the top of it with one of our professional coaches who's based in the UK. So we've got coaches based at a lot of the big clubs in Europe and the UK. They'll then connect with Lockie on a Zoom call. They'll spend about an hour with Locke going through his match analysis, going through his match objectives. And those match objectives then get put into his football plan, which is our web-based portal. And then once he's got his objectives in there, he can then start working to better himself as a player. So it's going to be super exciting to get that done. Now, before we finish off, Lockie, we've got about 5 or 6 minutes to go, if you're okay just to hang with us for a few more minutes. Now, we're talking about trials. You're going to the UK in January. What's the one thing that you're really looking forward to about this opportunity through the programme?
I think it's just a different environment to what I've ever been in. So I'm excited to be exposed to that, and I'll be able to learn off that and improve from, that new environment I've been put in. I also am excited to showcase my talent to some really experienced coaches over there in the UK, and yep, that's it.
That's amazing. So again, for everyone who's listening, we set up these trial opportunities. We go to the UK in January every year. We also go to Spain, to Barcelona, and to Paris Saint-Germain in France every June, July. Part of that is that we open up opportunities at private academies, sometimes professional clubs, and then it's all about getting the players to be able to showcase themselves in front of these high-level coaches. But also, one of the big things that Lockie's just alluded to is actually pitting yourself against the players in Europe and the UK, pitting yourself against the best players on the planet and the ones who are currently in the system. Now, we've been quite successful over the years. We've had in excess of 20 players who've been offered some form of scholarship to stay and live in the UK and in Europe and to play and train there full time. So obviously there's going to be an opportunity for every player who goes on the trial, Lockie, to be offered some type of scholarship to stay and play football in the UK and Europe. When you get your opportunity, do you think that's something that you might consider when maybe you're 16 or 17 or 18, is something that you think you might take on, or do you think it's a bit too scary to make that jump too early? What's your thoughts?
Well, I'm definitely prepared to, sacrifice a comfortable life just for that opportunity to play football in the UK. So really depends on some other things, but I think, yeah, it's definitely an option to take that scholarship and play over there.
That's amazing. Now, I know there's a lot of things that you've got to think about, and mums and dads do as well, everyone who's listening in. Obviously, where they're going to be based, what club or academy they sign for, but also the big thing that's really important to us, and before we introduce this as a pillar to the programme, is also having that education support for the players as well. So part of the scholarship opportunities for the players is that we're able to offer education with this as well. So as an example, if you were to sign for, let's say it was Manchester United, then we need to make sure that you've got your school attached to that as well, because it's so important that you've got a plan B and a plan C in the event your football doesn't turn out the way you would like it to over the next couple of years. So does that excite you as well, knowing that not only are you going to also get the opportunity to maybe play and train full-time in the UK, but you could also do some schooling, some coaching badges, and you'll have a multitude of options within the game of football by the end of the 2-year scholarship?
Yeah, it makes me feel really secure. And I think, feeling secure is definitely a key to also performing in those trials. I know if I don't perform well, then I still have some form of backup that I can lean on.
Yeah, that is absolutely fantastic. Now, finally, to finish off, what's your big dream, Lockie? So if you could have anything you wanted within your football dream and vision, who would you be playing for? What position would you be playing? Would it be Spain? Would it be England? Tell everyone.
So my dream, in the best case scenario, I would be playing as a 10, so as an attacking midfielder I'd say as an attacking midfielder for Manchester United. I'd have a long career over there. And then, after my career is finished, I would, pick up a job in some type of sports science, I think. That really interests me. And
That was the final question I was going to finish off. So when your football career is over, I was going to ask you, is it physio, is it sports science, is it coaching, is it management? So you'd like to be to maybe be involved in the sports science area of football?
Yeah, so after, if I finish playing, I would definitely like to stay in the scene of football. Yeah, it'd be great.
That's amazing. That's fantastic. Well, Lockie, a big thank you for joining me and everyone who watches and listens in to the Raymond's Wood podcast. We are super excited to get your match analysis done. We're super excited to see how you're going to progress in the next 6 months. And we're finally super excited to give you an opportunity to go to England. Now, just to finish off, for any boys and girls out there who are listening in or watching on YouTube and are interested in joining the professional player pathway, would you recommend the programme to anyone who's keen to make it as a football player?
Yeah, if it's your dream, if it's really what you want to do, definitely take it, because it's a great opportunity. Yep.
Amazing. Well, that's a big thank you from me and Lockie from the Raymond's Wood podcast, and we look forward to joining you and seeing you and listening to you on our next episode at the Raymond Wood podcast. A big thank you from me and Lockie Olsen, and we wish Lockie all the best of luck for the future with his football. Thanks very much, Lockie, for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Ray.
Hi everyone, this is Raymond Wood at the Raymond Wood podcast. We are super excited to do another episode. Now I'm with my very good friend, Mr. Kai Henning. How are you, Kai?
I'm very good, Ray. How are you?
Very good. Now we'll explain to all our listeners, anyone who's listening in and anyone who's watching on YouTube, a little bit of a backstory. So we've been involved with you and your football, I think it's for 3 or 4 years. Yes. And when you first come to us, how did you first meet with me and how did you first meet with Euro Football Star?
So we first met at some trials. You did some training.
Objective testing?
Yes. Yeah. And yeah.
And it went from there, didn't it?
Yeah.
Now we'll get straight into it, because I know anyone who's watching this on YouTube, and if you're not watching it on YouTube, you might want to start maybe watching some of our podcast episodes, because you'll actually see that Kai Henning's wearing a beautiful jacket from Steven Gerrard's Academy in Liverpool in England. So you've been at Steven Gerrard's Academy for how long now?
2 years now.
2 years. And you were just telling me you got some good news that you got extended by another year.
Yes, I'm staying there another year. They've asked me to come back for another year. So yeah.
That's fantastic. Now, we'll go all the way back to the start of the journey, because when we got you through our objective testing, it was just on the cusp of coming out of COVID. And also it was when we were just putting our professional player pathway program together, where we wanted to start to open up opportunities for boys and girls like yourself who wanted to play professional football but didn't know how to do it, or even how to maybe even fix your game to be good enough to go over. So we first done objective testing with you, and I remember when we seen you in the testing and we were very impressed with the results. And I remember a conversation with Mum, and your mum was saying that, yeah, you definitely love an opportunity to go overseas. And we had a look at one of your games, and I never forget it. And you were playing at the time for, I believe it was Redlands United.
United, yes.
Yeah. And I'd worked previously for a little bit of time with Redlands as well, so I know the area and the club really well. And there's a lot of great players down there. One of the big things, do you remember the one thing that we corrected in your game that really helped you with your wide play?
No, but can I have a guess? I'd say stretching the pitch, maybe.
Yeah, stretching the pitch and making it big and wide. I never forget having a conversation, I think it was with your dad, and explaining that sometimes it's just 1 or 2 really subtle changes to someone's game can be the difference, with all due respect, in playing an NPL in Australia, or maybe going on and playing at a professional academy or a pro club in Europe or the UK. And I never forget, about 4 weeks after we made the change with your game, your dad sent me a video of you where you stretched the pitch big, you took your first touch out in front of you, you attacked the byline, you crossed the ball back to zone 14,
Yes.
and then you set up the goal.
Yeah.
And I never forget like the smile on my face when your dad shared that video with me, because it was like they're actually listening, and he's actually listened to the one little bit of information I give him. And I knew from that moment, one of the big things people always say to me, Ray, how do you make it to be a professional football player? I think one of the biggest things is actually listening, because I'm a big believer in God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, and we should listen more. And I think you listened, and you're so coachable, and you took that point on, and it felt like within a blink of an eye, all of a sudden, you were in Liverpool and you were at a professional